2, 1. It is good to see you, dude.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah.
Good to be back,
dude. Last night, last night at that mic was so fucking good. And then you had the nerve halfway through your set to be like, "I'm gonna tell you a joke." That usually doesn't work, and then it fucking crushes.
I think I said it never works, because that's true. It never. But I was telling Jake after the mic, because he was giving me shit about that because it did work. But I've had jokes at his. I don't know what it is about his mic. I'll try shit that never works, and I'll do it there, and it'll go well. I don't know. I've had bad sets there too, obviously, but there have been a couple times where I've been like, this hasn't been working, but I'll try it here. It works very well, and then I'll try it like on the weekend, and I'll be like, okay, got a false positive at the mic because that is not that good. But yeah, that joke never. It's just I don't know. I did it a little sillier last night, so maybe that's the secret to it.
Well, you definitely need to be a bit lighter on the front end of it.
Yeah. For the viewers at home, it veers into Holocaust territory, but not in a pro-Holocaust way at all, obviously. But you bring it up, people's buttholes get a little tight.
I thought it was
fair enough.
Yeah, I thought it was fucking great.
Well, thank you. It still needs some work.
I think his mic is the most balanced between like audience and comedian usually, because I feel like Slice Parlor is more like families and shit, and that's always kind of weird. It's fun, but it's kind of weird. And then Chuck's at Red Door is like all comics. Yeah. That's like the Thunderdome. Like that,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I can't. Were you in the scene when Founders was around?
No.
So Founders was the peak for that because it was, if anything, more civilians than comics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was the best one as far as you could really feel like you ran your set and be like, okay, I got some good data on this. But as the scene stands now, I would say, Jake's on Monday is a good barometer, but also there's a good amount of non-comics there too.
Yeah, you'll have like the random people like we had last night. This randomly dropped in and sat down.
Yeah,
and so that's fun. I'm proud to announce that the podcast is now officially sponsored by the fine people over at Chop Chili Company. Guys, this is some of the best chili you can get here in the state of New Mexico, and they are online as well as in stores. They can be found at Smith's, Albertsons, Sprouts, John Brooks, and Lowe's Corner Market. They have 3 amazing flavors that you see here, and they also have frozen green chili that you can get online. Go on over to the website, chopchilico.com, and get yourself some amazing chili today. Podcast is now officially sponsored by the amazing people over at High Desert Relief, a premier herbal destination right here in the state of New Mexico. They have extremely well-trained and knowledgeable staff that are more than happy to help you find what you're looking for or try something that you maybe have never thought of. They have 2 locations here in Albuquerque, 1 in Santa Fe. All 3 will be listed right here and in the description of this episode. All 3 offering legendary products at absolutely legendary prices, including this awesome merch that they were so kind enough to gift me here. All of this can be found at all 3 of their locations. Again, big thank you to the guys over at HDR for supporting. Now back to the episode.
Yeah, I don't think those elderly people will be back. They got a lot of shit.
Yeah.
I felt bad for them. But
what I said definitely sounded better in my head. And then it came out, and I was like, oh, that's kind of that's like an asshole right now.
You have, not to jump straight into giving you notes that you didn't ask for, but I can tell when you're doing something that in your head it's sarcastic, but I recognize this because I have a similar issue sometimes where like you're coming at it from a perspective of, I'm kidding, I'm building to a joke here. I mean, obviously it's coming from somewhere that's true, but but you have a voice and a face, and I have a voice and a face where I've had that experience, especially earlier on where people would kind of give me a look like, is he kidding? Like, what? I don't know how to read this exactly. Yeah. So that's tricky, but they were fine. I don't even think they heard it because their hearing aids were turned down.
Well, that's why it's very hacky. And I recognize that, and I use the excuse of being new to justify the hackiness of the joke. But that's why
use that as long as you can.
Well, every set that actual set that I do, that's why I open it with the military shit and talking about Taliban.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, it makes fun of me, and hopefully just, especially with like some of the dirtier shit that I say at the end now,
Yeah.
hopefully just softens that blow as the set goes on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
No, I mean, it's good to be thinking about that at least, because I do think even if you're just doing a 5-minute set, the message you send with your body language, with the things you say, with how you say them, your tone, your facial expressions, your everything is sort of, it's telling the story. You want it to support the jokes you're telling and not undercut them, and you sort of want to start with something that is kind of going to introduce the idea of like, here's how the rest of my shit is going to go. Or like, yeah, start with something self-deprecating so that then people are a little more like, yeah, he's all right.
right,
Just set the tone. Like every joke should be setting the tone for what's to come. At least I would say that's a good way to approach it if you're trying to build time, you know?
no, yeah, for sure. Okay, so actually, we're gonna do a quick pause. I'm gonna fix that.
Pause.
So it doesn't sound like a fucking mosquito is.
What is that?
That's the blinds.
Oh, that's the blinds.
Yeah, it's the blinds just kind of vibrating. Yeah. So I wonder if that makes it does. That
I can live with whatever. I'll have, smoke detectors beeping for years, so if it doesn't bother you, it won't bother me, but
well, I get too much in my own head. All right, and we're back. I get too much in my own head about like how does this sound to the listener? Not necessarily like the content of the conversation. As long as me and the guests are having a good time, I don't give a fuck like what people think. But it's just from a quality perspective. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Because I did a podcast just like a couple weeks ago. A good friend of mine, he's my tattoo artist, and I thought that like there was a wind tunnel, and I thought it wouldn't pick up as much as it would, and it did. And I was like, "Fuck!"
The whole thing was kind of shot.
Yeah, the whole fucking thing. So it kind of like flowed in and out of the conversation, so it wasn't terrible.
Just be glad you're not doing podcasts in Chicago right now. I don't know what they're doing because they have the cicadas. So like I'll call home. Yeah. I was talking to my mom on FaceTime the other day, and I literally couldn't hear her. She was outside, and I was like, I can't. It sounds like you're sitting next to a buzzsaw. It's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah. Fucking up audio of podcasts all over the Chicagoland area. It's serious tragedy right now.
Do you have any plans to go back to Chicago to stand up there?
I mean,
because you're from, like you kind of just alluded to, you're from Chicago.
Yeah.
Huge comedy town.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, I have not like made explicit plans, but I have always kind of in the back of my head just thought I will do that eventually. But I have a wife here. We have a house.
Congratulations.
So,
it's been a few months, but congratulations.
Thank you. Still married, going well. And yeah, I mean, we've talked about like, yeah, if we have a kid, maybe when the kid gets, at the age when it's time to start going to grade school, maybe we'll move somewhere. And if we're going to move somewhere, it'll probably be Chicago, but like I don't have any plans to move there for comedy. It would just be like, oh, I want to continue doing comedy. This is the place to do it, to try and expand or, just get better opportunities, whatever it might be. So,
right.
It's potential. Yeah.
Because you just went to Salt Lake, right?
Yeah, I was there for just a night. Yeah.
How was Wise Guys? That's awesome.
Wise Guys was awesome. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, I opened for Steve Hostetter. And it was good. I mean, that's an awesome club, obviously. I don't know where their other locations are, but I know they have them. But that was the first one I've done at that brand, and it was great. I mean, it was like I was a little apprehensive going into it, and I was talking to his openers, just sort of thinking like, okay, we're in the capital of Mormon America. Are they? I was going through my set before I went on, and I was only doing like 7 or 8 minutes, not crazy, but I was thinking like, okay, most of my jokes are about fucking, and it's only when you are in a room where you're not sure about where that occurs to you. Like I hadn't been doing this set for a long time, and I was like, oh shit, that's a lot of dick stuff. But they were saying, like his openers were saying before, they're actually, if anything, more, especially the people who come out to a comedy show there, they were more I was like, how uptight are they? They were like, no, they're the opposite.
I was going to say, it feels like the people that aren't buying into the Mormon system are the ones that are going to comedy shows.
They're the ones, and they loved all the reference, like everyone. Any time during that show somebody made fun of Mormons or religion in general, they were all for it, because they're either the people who escaped or the people who live there and are just oppressed by how Mormon it is. Because it is, I don't know if you've ever been to Salt Lake City. It's such a weird place. It's very beautiful, with the mountains, and everything's very clean, but it's so white that it is scary. Somebody has a joke about how, like, if Hitler saw Salt Lake City, he would have said this was a mistake, because it's so unnerving. It fucks you up. And it's not just that everyone's white, which is its own thing. It's, in addition to that, they're white with this crazy dead look behind their eyes. They have this, and the fake enthusiasm. And maybe it's not fake. Maybe they really have the joy of Christ in their heart, but it's, for like a cynical person who feels like, I feel like I live in the real world, going there is a bit of a weird experience, because people are just sort of really eager, and it's odd, but it was a good audience, and I've heard that it's a good comedy town in general, at least that club. Like, people who go out there are
right.
there to sort of, they're not bringing their worldviews to sort of just, they're open to it.
Right, they're not there to project or to yell at a comedian for saying the wrong thing.
At least not that night, yeah.
Yeah, that's, when it's a whole community that one of their, like, staples of how they view sex is the act of soaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a sad community.
Man,
I hate to grow up there.
They certainly hide it with the plastered on smiles and everything if they are sad.
They're like the white family out of Get Out.
Oh, it's very Get Out.
Yeah.
It feels very Get Out. It's got a creepy company town vibe. When I was there, I don't know if it was Easter or what. It was April, so I don't know when Easter was this year. I don't keep track of that. But there was something. I was just hanging. I flew there for the day, because I was going to drive, but it was too far of a drive. I was just there for the day.
It was like 10 hours, 12 hours?
It was too far to do both. I was like, I could get there, but I can't drive back by myself. So I was like, I'll just get a cheap flight. It was fine. But I was there just walking around downtown, and there was some kind of Mormon convention going on. Maybe it was Easter. I don't know. But it was just tens of thousands of people walking around downtown with their Sunday best, because it was a Sunday. They're dressed up. They've got the light of the Lord just beaming from their fingertips, and I was just sort of sitting there like a little hungover. Like, I'd been at Dry Heat like 8 hours before that, doing a set with, like, that was the Jim Jeffries night, or the first drop-in he did. I was like,
oh yeah,
still buzzing from that, and just watching all these crazy people. Just like, I'm disheveled. I was like, I don't belong here. Maybe I should go in the church. I should learn something. But it's crazy. Like, I don't have a bit about this or anything, but I should have written it, because the first time I went there, we went to they have a museum, like a Mormon museum. And it is, especially coming from a place like New Mexico, it is so pathetic. It's a Mormon museum. It's a history of the Mormon church, and they have artifacts. And there's like a spoon. You're looking at a spoon, and it's like, Joseph Smith used this spoon. And I'm like, it's not even rusty. It's just a spoon behind glass. It's like, this spoon is from 1932. And I was like, okay, well, back home where I just came from, you can look at pottery from like 2000 BC. I don't know what,
right.
But there's this, and they have like exhibits that are just like, film, like little movies that they like, reenactments of moments from Mormon history. They're just actors. I was like, this isn't like, you can pretend that Jesus came down in a flash of light, and you can do good production values. They have a lot of money, but this isn't a history museum. But
so,
what do I know?
That's actually a really good segue into something I want to ask you. So you are one of, if not my favorite, joke writers in this city.
Well, thank you.
It's fucking crazy how, like, just watching it get displayed on stage is awesome.
Thank you very much.
So let's say you take a scenario like that. How does your brain start to, like, let's say like there's a funnel from like the regular part of your brain to like the comedic part of it. how does your brain take a subject like that and then diffuse it into like, this is now comedy material?
Sure.
And then at what point does it hit like, okay, this can work or this can't work, and you move on from it?
Well, it's a pretty good question. I don't know. I can try and parse it out, but I mean, it's a tough example in that sense because, as I said, like at the top of that anecdote, like I haven't done a bit about this, so it's not something that jumped out to me in my immediate, whatever you want to call it, writing process. Like if something ridiculous happens to me and I can just sit down and just sort of bang it out, or even not even sit down and just feel like it's there and I can work it out on stage, then that's ideal. But with something like that, I would probably, that feels like more of a story. So if you're going into a longer bit like a story, you want to sort of think about peppering in different punchlines pretty frequently. Because if you're telling a story, I wouldn't say this is common, because I think it's most people probably get this intuitively, at least if you understand or watch comedy. Like if you're doing a longer bit, like you can't just, it's tougher to go longer stretches, like unless you're just an amazing storyteller. You're not going to keep people's attention, or even if you are, it's hard. It just, the longer you go without that laugh, the more you have to pay it off. It's like you're racking up a debt, that you have to pay off with the laugh when it comes. It's like, we were listening for 90 seconds. Where's the fucking laugh? So with something like that, I mean, my process, such as it is I will stand on my work ethic. That's like the one thing I will say I will protect and be defensive of and be proud of, is that I will sit down every day that I can, and I set a timer on my phone, and it's like this 2 hours or 3 hours, or 3 hours would be a lot, but 2.5 hours, this is for, I have to work something out. I will just make it so that during this time something has to happen. And that doesn't mean like I don't get distracted or I jerk off or whatever during that 2 hours. But that when that timer goes, I want to feel like, okay, I did my work. Like, so even with some, like, it's tough to answer that question just because, okay, take the idea of like trying to do a joke about Mormons. I don't know. Would that even work in New Mexico? Are there enough of them? I mean, people know they're weird, but that's tough because you have to, I'm thinking like, okay, how much do I have to explain? If you're explaining, you're kind of behind. Like people maybe know about soaking, but if not, half the crowd's not with you. You got to start from scratch there. You just sort of have to go through, like, I can kind of like filter through like what's not going to work and then try and get to, I mean, what I just told you, the only funny part of that was the spoon. So I'd probably have to either try to remember or make up 2 other examples of ridiculous things in that museum that were not really museum quality. And then I'd think, what am I trying to say with this joke or bit? Because I don't believe that you should be trying to make a point with your jokes necessarily. If they do incidentally, fine, but that should not be where you're coming from.
There should be a reason you're telling the joke, but there shouldn't be this like, I don't know if this is the route you were going down, but like this, I think the extreme of it is like this virtue signaling bullshit.
Sure.
Or saying something so obvious that anyone with a moral compass would agree with you, or like trying to make a political point. Like
that's like the extreme of what I'm getting at. I just don't think in general your joke should. What I'm not trying to say, I'm saying your joke shouldn't be, when you're writing a joke, you shouldn't be trying to make a point. You should be trying to make people laugh. But at the same time, I do think it's close. It's a similar idea, but it is distinct and importantly different to complete the thought, if you know what I mean. That's how I think of it, where if I'm telling a story about Mormons suck, like, is that really worth my time on stage? Or is that, like, what's the, like, I'm trying to, it's tough to, I guess I've never said this out loud, but I don't, I'm not trying to make the point of Mormons suck or Mormons are weird. But if I were, is that worth doing 3-4 minutes on? Is that worth even 30 seconds,
Right.
So like I talk a lot I use my wife and my relationship as a jumping off point for a lot of my jokes, but they're not about my wife, if that
Yeah.
I don't think if you saw my act, if you saw me do 20 minutes or 30 minutes, you would say like, that guy talks a lot about his wife. Like he needs some new, or at least I hope not. But I mean, most of my premises, or at least a good chunk of them, come from something my wife said or something we saw together or something we were doing together. But then the joke will end up being about something else, because I don't want the point to be, or not the point, but the complete idea after the joke, to you don't want to be left with the feeling of like, okay, this guy's just trying to pontificate or something,
No, that makes perfect sense.
I don't know if it did.
No, it
you're
does.
nice to say so.
No. That makes sense. And because you mentioned last time that you worked for for a newspaper, but like specifically with,
You're gonna have to remind me what I said last time, because we could be having the exact same conversation. I don't remember.
I refreshed a little bit.
Okay,
I hate re-listening to my old podcast, dude.
Yeah, that's tough. I can only imagine.
Like I can do my own stand up because at least it's like, okay, it's not an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours long,
and it might be a little different every time.
Yeah, and I'm learning. You know
Sure.
what I mean? I'm learning to get my stand up better, and I'm all that kind of stuff. But like, I'm not gonna watch this back unless I absolutely have to. And even if I do, like I was rewatching the first one that we did, I just skipped past myself.
Oh, okay.
I can't fucking.
Damn. See, now we got to work on that for you, because that feels like something you need to address, because you shouldn't have that kind of reaction when you come up. I mean, it's analogous. I mean, I don't have a podcast, but I had that with stand-up clips. Yeah. And you just get over it, I don't know. You've been doing this a long time, so I was going to say you'll get over it with time, but maybe not.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I will, to be honest with you, because I love doing it, and I'll like, is there something about, maybe it's like, I haven't thought about this out loud either. Maybe.
We're breaking new ground. It's good.
This
going to be a good pod.
This is a real breakthrough.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's strange watching myself like try to form thoughts in real time. At least stand up is kind of prepared. Kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say it would be easier to watch that if you ended up in a good place. If you were watching back and you're like, oh yeah, I did well with this thought. Yeah, things ended up connecting. But if you're watching it back and you're like, yeah, I never got anywhere with this. I can't fucking watch this. But with stand-up, I mean, at least for me, maybe people always struggle with that, but I got over that. I was like, because it matters a lot, I would say. When I would read a lot about that, or I'd hear people say like, you just have to do it. And for a long while, I was thinking, maybe I'm different and I don't have to. I'll figure out how to be funny without doing that. And no, it really makes a difference, because eventually you will run into an audience, or you'll run into a night where you do your set that has worked before. You'll do your favorite joke that has always worked, and it won't work, and then you have to go back to the drawing board. And if you have been watching, or at least keeping up with how you look and how you sound, and facial expressions, body language, it all goes into it. And so there's something, like I had something earlier this year where I was like, I've had like a bad 2 weeks. I don't know what the fuck's going on. And I'll start with just listening to it, then I'll watch it. But I noticed I was just like, I'm a tick too fast. It was just as simple as that. I was like, I'm just going too fast, and just adjusting from there.
Yeah.
And
it's also easier to rewatch your stuff when you do well. Like, I'll be honest. Like, I finally had a really, like, I did okay the first time I did Dry Heat. I feel like I did okay. But this past Saturday, I did well. And I was fucking shocked.
Mazel tov.
Like, in the moment, I was shocked. But then, like, rewatching it and, like, taking notes and all that stuff made definitely an easier pill to swallow.
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of feel the opposite, but maybe it's just, like, I get that for sure. Like, if maybe it's if you weren't expecting to do as well as you did, and you sort of just exceeded your own expectations, that would be fun. I feel like when I have a great set, I don't. Maybe this is incorrect, but I'm like, I don't need to watch that. I know what I did well, but maybe that's holding me back from taking another step forward. But because I'll just think to myself, I felt great about that. I don't want to revisit it and then start nitpicking. thinking like, it wasn't as good as I thought. I just want it to be good in my mind.
Well, but then you could like find things that are already compounded on just to build upon those.
Yeah, I should probably do it. I mean, I'm contradicting myself, but yeah, you should just suck it up and do it. But podcasts are different. I mean, you're not going to watch 2 hours, 3 hours back. It's
rough.
That's crazy. But yeah, to what the reason that came up is I have no idea what I said the first time here, so we could have the same conversation.
Probably.
Yeah,
It could happen.
cool. I'm fine with that.
The roast that you and I were both on last Wednesday.
Yeah.
That on the opposite side of doing well. I am still like, what the fuck happened?
Well,
Because like there's one thing I've been able to like be happy about like consistently in stand up until that night, that even if I bomb, I've never frozen up.
yeah.
I have never done that. And
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck it was, but I got 2 lines out, or 2 jokes out rather.
Yeah.
They did okay. That was also a very
But you
easy.
had more.
Yeah, it was also a
Yeah.
very easy room.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, when someone can get up on stage and just say, "All right, colonizer," and get a pop, come on. That's an easy room.
Yeah. That was that. At that point, they were just riding on the energy that had already.
But the fact that the first 2 jokes of the room were mine, and they still got laughs when they weren't. I got a laugh on a setup. Like I was rewatching the footage of it. Like, okay, well I fucked up, but like let me see if these 2 went well.
Yeah.
It's like okay, but yeah, I just froze the. I was like, what the fuck?
That's a bad feeling.
Yeah.
I knew it happened to you as soon as it happened because you had like 6 or 7 jokes. You did 2, and you were like, there was like just a beat, and you were like, that's it. And I was like, oh man, he had more. He knows he had more. Yeah, but that
whole show went well. Like overall, that was a fun show.
It was chaotic, man. Everyone I talked to said it was more fun than they were expecting it to be.
Oh, for
sure. I honestly was stressed. I mean, I had fun, but I don't know why I felt stressed because I love the roast battles, but just maybe it's because I felt like I was in charge just because I was a captain. And so like, well, maybe it was probably because like during half the roast battles, I was like leaning over being like, okay, do you have anything for this person going next? No? Okay, fuck, we're fucked. And I miss like half the jokes. So like everyone's having a great time. The room's good. Room's hot. Everyone's enjoying it. Some good back and forth. But half the time I was like strategizing because I was like, we gotta win, and you're not prepared. Fuck. I told you to write jokes. You didn't fucking write jokes. You don't have anything for AJ? He's fat as fuck. Here, take mine. Jesus. But
that's funny.
it was
It's
good.
cool that you give a shit, dude.
That's
cool.
I wanted to win, but it doesn't matter.
Dude, that fucking joke against Josh at the end.
That was wild.
Very, like, on paper, simply written, but the fucking execution was perfect.
Well, it was a pretty big swing because, like I was saying just a minute ago, like the longer you go without, it was a long setup, and so that joke has to hit, and you're building anticipation. I was holding attention, which is good because that's another, like, depends on the room, but if you do, there's certain rooms you just can't do a joke like that because it was like a minute setup of silence, no jokes.
For all, intents and purposes, you shouldn't have been able to do that joke in that room and got the reaction you did.
I mean,
it's an old town, bunch of white people.
It was very loud. It was very drunk, but I mean,
it's great.
Call it whatever. I mean, it was just some white colonizer magic. It's like, hey, I'm the boss, and you're gonna listen for 60 seconds, then you're gonna laugh. Just trust me on this. Go with me. But I'm the boss. Just look. I have the hair and the face. You're gonna listen. But it was, it was. I did it when I roasted Josh in the regular roast battles. I did a joke like that. So, and I didn't have a ton for him. So I was like, if I go against Josh, I'll just do this. I'll try it. But I didn't. I thought it was good, but I didn't expect it to. I mean, it was like prison riot behavior. People, like Cardomad was doing car wheels. It was fucking crazy. Like people were standing on tables. That was nuts. I've never had anyone react like that to any joke I've ever told. But with just the situation of that night, it worked pretty well. And credit to Josh because, well, like I said about the colonizer joke that whoever it was made, like, you can, especially in a show like that, in a context like that, you can kind of coast off of energy that's already been created. And so I felt like part of why that joke worked is because Josh gave me some good shit. So Josh went first. He had some good jokes on me. The crowd's like, there's he's creating the arc, right? He's building. This guy better have some good shit to come back with him, because he's getting some. If Josh had come out and just done nothing or shat the bed, my joke doesn't work as well. So like he set it. His part of why it worked well was he set it up with some good initial punchlines. Then people were like, okay, this is gonna be good, and so it just brought my thing to the next crazy cartwheel type of level. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, you talking about how you froze up. Honestly, that's a good. If you're trying to get better at comedy, that's a rite of passage. I mean,
oh yeah,
that's gonna happen.
Oh yeah,
that's a bad spot for it to happen because you obviously want it to do well, and it's a full room. You'd rather that happen at a mic where there's 3 people there, but it's inevitable. I mean, anyone who's ever done comedy, I'm sure, has had that moment at least once. And if you're any good at it, you have it once, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna work so that never happens again. Because I remember when it happened for me, and it was just made it. I was so fucking butthurt about it.
Do you remember where it was at?
Yeah, and again, this might have been a story I told on the last pod, but it was the first time I went out of town to do comedy ever. So I went to Denver, and it was in a room at a great show. I think it still happens, but it's like a weekly show. It's free, which is the kind of thing that here it would suck, or it would probably be tough to fill. But in that city, there's just comedy fans. So it's like, I was shocked that it was packed and everybody was crushing, and the crowd is just sitting on the edge of their seats, their face right in the front of their head, just sort of laughing their asses off. And I was still new, and I was like, I've never seen a room like this. It was better than a comedy club almost, because it was intimate but packed, and everyone's crushing so hard. First time doing comedy somewhere else, and I'm like, this is what I want. I want comedy to feel like this. It never feels like this. Is fucking amazing. And I went up, and I was doing well, and I wasn't nervous at all, and I just felt like I can do this. I can go with the flow. I can do my shit. And I was trying to add a joke in that it was like a new tag or something, which is rough to do if you're in an unfamiliar space. You're new, you're a little apprehensive, even if you don't think you're nervous, you're probably a little nervous. So I was trying to add a tag in, and I just got lost. I was like, no, what comes after this? Something else comes after this.
Like the muscle memory got changed and
exactly.
thrown off.
I was like, I always do it this way, but no, I said I was going to do so. And just that 1 second of hesitation is fucking, then panic. It just opens the gap, panic flies in, standing there thinking, I think I even checked my notes, which, kill yourself. I mean, what the fuck am I doing in that kind of room? Like, oh,
in
geez.
any show.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that any show where you pull.
I know you feel strongly about, and people do have strong feelings about that. I don't feel that strongly about it, but at a mic or whatever, do whatever you want. But at a show where people they expect money to be a good show, they want you shouldn't. I mean,
if you're going to a place with comedy club in its name, and you're using notes.
Have some professionalism.
There's an issue.
Some respect.
There's a real. Anyway,
but
go back to your story.
I think I pulled it out just because I was like, I was so lost. It spiraled where I was like, I forgot my next joke, and now I forgot all my jokes. I forgot my name. I don't know where I am.
How many years into this for you?
It was probably like 2 years in. I mean, it was
so still new.
Yeah, and it was new in this. Maybe I wasn't that new to comedy. I mean, 2 years, you're a baby, but I was new in the sense that it was like that was a newer experience for me, out of town in a room where people actually like. I've only done comedy in New Mexico where it's always an uphill battle, and this was downhill. People were like, "Yeah, we want to laugh. We like that you're doing little clever little jokes. Fuck yeah!" And I was just, it was working so well that it threw me off. Like some people will have that freeze because they're bombing. Like, oh, that joke didn't work, and now I'm fucked. I don't know what's next. And then that just compounds the issue. For me, it was it was the opposite. I was doing better than I expected. Jokes were getting laughs that never got laughs here. Like, I was getting laughs on setups. I was like, yeah, I wrote that. And I wrote it because I thought it was funny. It's never gotten a laugh. I always say it. No one ever laughs. You guys are laughing. Holy shit. And then, yeah, it fell apart. But it was motivating for me because I was, really, really pissed off. I like to think I'm competitive with myself. And so I was just mad that wasn't prepared for that. But comedy is all about having that kind of fuck up, having that kind of experience, having that kind of weird medium nothing experience, and then thinking, okay, next time that happens, I will do something funnier, and like just building on everything. And so that has to happen.
See, because I've wanted to try the roast, but I've been terrified of them. Just absolutely fucking mortified.
You haven't done one at Revel?
No.
Oh, okay. I guess I thought you had.
And and then Mulkey hit me up about that, and I was like, sure. You know what? Fuck it. I didn't expect 70 people to be there.
No, and I told him that, and I'm glad that you said that, because when I was talking to him about the format, I was like, this is good because it will bring people like you, or I'm sure there were others in that lineup who haven't done a roast battle one-on-one, but are like, I can do a minute, if it's just
that's
a
exactly
minute,
how
I'm
I
part
felt
of a
about
team, I can do a minute. Like, I might be afraid about doing 5 rounds, 200 people at Revel, judge all that shit, but I can do a minute. And so
that's
I like
exactly
that it was
my fucking mindset. Because I was like, I've eaten a dick for 5 straight minutes at an open mic. I can do 2 minutes of bombing where half of that time is me getting shit on. That's fine. I can do that,
and it's fun. Yeah. And I hope that more people. I hope there were a lot of comics in the room that night, and I hope they saw it. And it was fun. It got a little wonky at the end, but for the most part,
1 minute break turned into 10-minute breaks and turned into 15-minute breaks.
God bless Caleb. He got a little drunk by the end. I think it started falling apart, but. It was good. It was good, and then it was weird, but weird in a fun way. But also there were some race war undertones happening, and I was like,
look at fucking Jared's walking around with the dry erase board.
He didn't help. He was inciting. If something had gone down, I would testify to the fact that he was inciting. But it was off the rails in a fun way. Off the rails can be fun, but I would say, and I told Caleb this, so I don't have a problem saying it. Like, the structure needs to be a little more tight, and that can be an amazing show. I mean, we had a fun show, but it was almost by the grace of God at certain points. If you tighten the format, he's got something that'll, I think, become a good part of the scene here. It was fun.
Well, and I think you and I were having this conversation a while ago about, because the June 15th show that I'm putting on that you're going to open for.
June 15th.
Very excited.
Safe House Distillery. I don't know if this is coming out after that. If it does,
I think it'll come out right before.
Okay, I think. Be there.
Yeah. Otherwise, it went fucking. All of it went great. No fuck ups. No nothing.
Holy shit! I killed.
Yeah.
Noah killed. Everybody else, funniest sets I've ever seen. Honestly, you missed out. Yeah. Come to the next one.
And I'm just, like I said, I think we're having this conversation about it where it's like, I'm just glad there's a newer show, and that's why I wanted to do like a comedy show, but like something that's not just, hey, you're going to see 4 to 6 comedians go up and make jokes, like just something a little different.
I do think, I remember you making that point, and I think it's totally valid, because I love comedy. I'll go to a comedy show wherever. I'll do comedy wherever. There is a saturation point, probably. I don't know what it is, for maybe a town probably any town, of just straight up and down comedy. Maybe a place like Chicago has it's bigger, there's more people, there's different venues. You could just do, hey, I'm going to do 4 comics, 1 headliner doing, 35 minutes or whatever, $10 cover. You can have 100 of those. Here, maybe 5. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're hitting our limit.
Yeah, so...
and especially, I think it's a mixture of the amount of venues that are willing to do it. Not just venues that we have, but just the venues that are willing to do it. And then it's the low amount of active comedians, and then the quality of the show. So I think all those kind of tied together, it's like, okay, if we are going to put on a show, it's something a little bit different. And I do not want to come off as someone with an inflated ego, because I don't know how well I'm going to do on that show. However, I have all the faith in absolutely everybody that I've booked.
Yeah.
because it's like if I'm gonna eat a dick, I'll live with that. But I don't want to attach. This does sound vain, but I don't want to attach myself. I don't be the guy that books just anybody.
No, I think that's a good standard to have. We need more of that. But I also credit to you for doing something. You want to do a show, but you want to make it fun for you, not just to do a show. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna call people out because that's not what even the point I'm trying to make. But if you don't do a show just because you want to have a show. You know what I mean? Like, do a show because you're like, I could do it well, and I want it to be fun for me.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to keep doing it. If it's fun for you, you're going to keep doing it. I want it to be something that's interesting to me, something that I like, with comics I like. And when it's not fun, I'll stop doing it. Or if it doesn't work, we'll find another venue or whatever. But you don't want to sometimes you walk into a comedy show and you're like, there's no life behind this. Like the person running it is just sort of like, yeah, I'm running it because I always run it, or I've been doing it a long time, or whatever. And you want to then mix it up, like do a different format. Like you're doing a different format. So, and it doesn't have to be a different format. You can do just straight up and down, just a couple openers, headliner, great. One opener, big headliner from out of town, big venue, whatever. But do it with intention. Yeah.
That's the point of it too, is intention. And just being completely transparent, it's not my original idea. I saw a proof of concept in Austin. And I was like, okay. And I was telling fucking Maverick when I was out there, I was like, this needs to be in Albuquerque.
Sure.
Because it's so fucking good. So I'm hoping it goes well. I'm sure. I know it's not going to, like, unless nobody fucking shows up, I know it's not going to bomb or anything like that.
No.
But, I would like to build that relationship with that venue between myself, AJ, and them, and kind of just go from there.
And it's a pretty small patio. I mean,
Yeah.
you get 15 people there, it'll be a fucking rock and roll in time.
Exactly.
And when you told me about this show, you said, like, yeah, I saw it in Austin. And I was like, I think what I said at the time was awesome. Like, people, you do not need to reinvent the wheel if you're trying to do a concept show of any kind. It's been done somewhere else. Steal it. Give them credit. Like, It's not... They'd probably be honored if you were like, hey, this is a ripoff of XYZ. I saw it in Nashville. It fucking rocks. I want to bring it here. Whatever. Cool. More people should do that. Like, there's so many awesome comedy scenes. Do it here. If it works somewhere else, that's just proof that it has legs,
No, exactly. And between putting that together, even though I ate a dick doing that roast show, but even like writing for the roast, I was like, oh shit, like this is kind of fun. Like writing for it. And then the long story short of the story is the opportunity came up to be on the roast at the end of the month at Revel.
Oh yeah.
So myself and AJ got added to it.
I think that's why I thought you had done one, because I saw you on the poster for the next one.
No, we're not even running on the poster yet.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We literally just got added. I think a week ago.
I'm just wrong then.
Yeah.
But
no, I think I talked to you about it or something like that. But anyway, my point is like that got me excited for this. I was like, okay, that's what it feels like to freeze up. I'll say yes to this.
Yeah.
Like let's fucking
and also
do it.
that's and we don't have to keep going back to that, but it is. That happened. That sucked. I told my story about that happening. It sucked. You're not dead, Like, you still had a fun night, I would hope.
Oh,
like,
fuck yeah, that was a fun ass
And
night.
you've done comedy since. You're not hiding in the closet, like crying in the corner, fucking in the fetal position or whatever. You're like, it's not that bad. It's honestly freeing. I mean, Colbert had some interview a long time ago when he was like like his Second City days, talking about embracing the bomb. And I read that, and it took me a while to get what he meant. Like, I had to have experiences that sort of aligned with that for me to understand it. Because he has wisdom around it, how it's like, embrace it, If it's not going well, you should have fun regardless, And it's tough, obviously, in a roast format.
Yeah.
Freeze up, whatever, you're out. You can't come back. But in imagine it happens in your opening joke.
Yeah, like a 15-minute
at
set.
Dry Heat last weekend.
Yeah.
You got to fucking figure it out,
Yeah.
Like but then it happens and it sucks, and you're looking out at 110 people and you're like, man, oh man, I want to die. I want to crawl into a hole. I got to figure it out. And you sink or swim. Like, there's got to be I can only speak from my experience. Like, I have been able to, in those moments, a joke doesn't go well, whatever it is, something goes sideways, somebody's drunk and they're ruining the show, whatever. You got to make it fun. And if you don't, oh, okay, you're still there. You're still standing. It's fine. It's not honestly that bad. It sucks. You don't want it to happen again, but you're like, you know what? I'm being afraid of that. It's not that bad. I'm not afraid of it anymore. And then if just the more free and open and like confident you feel on stage, the better you're going to be. So it's a blessing, honestly.
No, it definitely is. And you learn more from that than the successes. I feel like like a very generic like lesson of life, but especially like so when you're recording the thing and you're looking back on, like I know I pull more out of that than I do like a set that went really well. And then plus like, I don't ever intend having a complete meltdown. Like, did you see what happened to Nick Swartzen like 2 months ago?
I read about it on Reddit. I saw like people talking about how what was he like? He said he was altitudes or he was drunk or something.
So everyone was saying because he was up there like.
I didn't watch the video. I can't watch uncomfortable videos. That's one of my things. When people are like, "You gotta watch this video. It's fucking fight at Wendy's." I'm like, I can't. I'll read about it, but I can't. So like, there were clips, and I didn't watch
it was bad.
But, yeah,
like, he was up there and he was just slurring his words and he was stumbling around, just being a drunk and yelling at people, and so they
and people were booing, right? And they were hostile.
Well, some people were booing, but a lot of people were just like, "What the fuck is going on?" It was a sold out theater of like, I think 600-700 people, and so they ended up cutting his mic, but the lights are still on, and so he's like talking, and he realizes the mic is dead, so he drops it, starts yelling, and then they cut the lights, so the theater's lit up, but the stage isn't, and even though like the stage is dark, some of the light from the theater's making its way like to the first like maybe 5-8 feet, and you see his assistant walk on stage and like get him by the shoulders and like hobble him off. So I don't plan anything crazy like that happening.
No,
but no, and again like it's just like you said, like now it's like okay, I never want to have that happen again. And now that I've got El Vado and we've got Dry Heat this week, but now that I've got the roast battles at the very end of the month, I'm like okay. Like that, and especially it makes me a little more comfortable because I'm going against a friend of mine. Like I know who I'm going against. Yeah, not gonna be anything crazy.
No, well, I would expect. Well, I don't know. I can't give you advice on that necessarily, but
what I mean, nothing crazy. It's like it's not like they're like, hey, you're going against this person you never heard of.
That's tough.
You know what I mean? Like I know how to roast him. I know within a certain margin degrees of error how he's gonna roast me. Yeah, and it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah. If you get, I mean, but you said something about how for the roast battle last week, was it last week? Yeah, how it was like a good writing challenge, or I know I talked about that on the last podcast because I tell everyone that I don't want to be the roast comic or whatever. I don't want that to be my reputation or whatever. But I do take pride in the fact, and I encourage people to do it because I like writing jokes, and it's the best joke writing exercise you can do because the setup is right there. You just have to do punchlines. Like the setup is standing next to you. So if it's such a distilled, perfect, just entity of joke. And like there was one, Sarah Kennedy, who the fuck did she roast? It was like she was the last second. Oh, it was like Libby T, I think. Somebody dropped out or whatever. Sarah never does the roasts, but obviously she, you always think like, yeah, she'd be great at it. I wish she would. And then that night she did, and she just did cannon fire. It was, I don't know if you were there.
Yeah, it was.
It was fucking insane because she did, what's the roast, like 3 rounds is the format. She probably did 50 jokes, not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Just Libby looks like is whatever. And I was just like, this is a clinic. And it was so fun to watch. And I was like, if anyone doesn't like comedy, if you don't like this, you don't like comedy. That's what I was trying to say. Like,
for sure.
This is what it is because it was just so perfectly distilled. It was, and of course it's all in good fun. And I think people get, get their haunches up because it's mean, but if it's mean, it sucks. Like, like
no, for real. Like there's a difference between like telling like a this is a very extreme example, but there's like a difference between telling like a slavery joke or a racist joke or a race joke, and then just going up there and saying the N-word.
Yeah,
those are two very separate things.
And there's and a slavery joke is tough, But if you do it with some fucking panache,
Like
and you write it right, if you write it correctly,
Yeah.
and it pays off. Like I did my joke at the roast last week about what's her face, Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
That joke wasn't for everybody, but I was happy with that joke because I wasn't calling her fat. I did the work to. I mean, I don't. Now I feel like I brought it up. I have to say the joke. Fuck it. You should have been at the show. But like, instead of like, what I mean by if it's mean, it sucks is if you just go up there and you're just like, you fat piece of shit. No one's laughing. That sucks. Do some work. Like say it in a more creative way. Don't like we've heard. Yeah. Okay. We all see it. Like fucking. Or like me, it's like he looks like a fucking. Kyle Rittenhouse pedophile school shooter or whatever. Like fucking do some work there. Don't just come up there and say, like. So I think what I like about the roasts is good writing is rewarded.
Yeah.
And so that's not always necessarily true. It depends on the audience, depends on the venue, whatever. But in those formats,
At Revel, it is. That audience
For sure.
will fucking eat you alive.
yeah, they will fully and aggressively disrespect you if you didn't prepare.
Yeah.
If you just go up there and it's happened 100 times where someone just goes up and they're just like, man, I'm just going to fucking freestyle. And it's like, dude, they hate this. They actually want to see you do some fucking roast. Like it's not.
And the fact you have judges. And the fact you have Buck D hosting it. So he's going to fucking tear you to shreds.
He's not going to let you off the hook. Yeah,
No.
exactly.
Yeah, it's a good time. I'm very excited for it. Why don't you want to be known as a roast comic?
I guess that came from a place of ego or arrogance because I know I'm good at it. And so I don't necessarily want people to just think like, oh, he's only good at that or something like that.
I don't think anybody would say that about you.
I don't know what people say. So maybe that's just me,
I've only heard positive things.
Well, that's
And
good.
I've heard negative things about more than a few comics, which is unfortunate. I don't like that. But I've never heard anything negative about your ass, dude.
Well, that's good. Tell me the positive things. No, just kidding. No, it's I just that probably was just coming from a place of like
I understand it. You don't get pigeonholed. Is that kind of like
probably.
You know what I mean?
I don't like. Maybe it comes from like okay, so what the Tom Brady roasts were a month ago or whatever. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And I love that it was like a moment for comedy. Like the culture, which I don't like, but everyone was talking about that, and everyone was talking about comedy and joke writing, and everyone was like, Nikki Glaser fucking killed it, and I was like, good.
Hinchcliffe, yeah.
Tony crushed it, but I liked that people who don't necessarily tune into comedy were like, I watched it, it was fun, but you could tell the comedians were pros,
Right.
And it's like, yeah, that's the way it should be, but good. I'm glad, widen the tent. But I do think Nikki Glaser, as an example,
she was amazing.
She's so fucking good at it. I mean, did you see her? Any you pull up any clip of her like today? My wife was talking about Alec Baldwin, and I was like, "Did you ever see Nikki Glaser at the Alec Baldwin?" Pull it up. I'm just doing the dishes, and I'm just cackling. She's in the other room, and I can hear the fucking it's so good.
One of my favorite jokes of hers. It was either at the Trump roast or the Baldwin roast when the lady, I think it was a Trump roast because the lady who was there was the like the super Trump lady, wrote a book. Ann Coulter.
Ann Coulter,
yeah. And she said, what does she tell her? Nikki Glaser goes, "The only man you'll ever make happy is a Mexican who digs your grave." Like,
I mean, she's fucking nuts. In the Alec Baldwin one this morning, because Caitlyn Jenner was there. God bless her. Why the fuck was she there? Nikki Glaser just goes, you were such an amazing athlete, and people forget that because you've had so much happen in your life. People forget how fast you ran away from your first family. Just like that it brings a tear to my eye. It's so fucking good. But in the context of like where I'm coming, like I feel like she is somewhat pigeonholed as being really good at roasts. She's not in the sense of she has an amazing career. She does specials. She has podcasts, whatever. But I feel like, and maybe I'm imagining this, I feel like there's a certain kind of, even a comedy fan who's like, yeah, I like her roasts, but,
Well, yeah, because she had. Cause I found out about her for the first time. I think it was the Charlie Sheen roast back in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember watching because she has a couple of half-hour stuff through Comedy Special or Comedy Central, and then she has a couple like the hour roast on hour specials on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it's like as the years carried on and the roast kind of died down, her like regular material didn't match the roast material. It just did, in my opinion. In my opinion,
I would agree. I mean,
I'm a huge fan of her, but like
me too. That's what I'm saying. Is she's so good at the roasts? Does it kind of overshadow everything else she's done, which is not necessarily fair because she's done a lot. So I'm obviously not comparing myself to her, but in the sense of I just said I didn't want to be like the roast guy.
I would agree with you.
I'm not at that level, obviously. Well, no one, but I don't want people to see me at the roasts and then not care about anything else. I'd rather them come at it from the other direction and be like, he's a funny comic. He happens to be good at roasts as well. But I don't get to decide that.
Like, yeah, that is true. But I would agree with you if like you weren't that great at regular shows. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Roasts are fun, dude. I'm excited. I'm very curious to see how that June 15th show. Because has there ever really been a show in Albuquerque where the audience is encouraged to heckle other than Def Jam?
There was Bourbon and Boots when Kay Shane was doing that show. Maybe he still is. I don't know. But he was doing it for a while last year, maybe even 2 years ago. There were a few shows, and it was always chaotic there. I don't even think he needed to tell people at a certain show, like, this is the heckle show. Because it was tough. I mean, I like Kay's, nice guy. And he was always, straight up and down as far as, booking and running shows or whatever. But that room was fucking terrible. And I had good sets there, but it was so fucking brutal just to get anyone's attention because it's not the room for it. There's certain places comedy just shouldn't happen.
What were the elements that made it not the room for comedy?
That was what's tricky. Is it on paper it should be fine. It was like a dimly lit bar. I think it's weird. It's like a country western.
Right. Yeah, I've been in there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like country, but also Raiders, but also hoodlum. It's fucking everything.
It's country, but South Valley.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. It's like South Valley people who wear cowboy boots, but also they'll kill somebody if the Raiders lost. So there's a lot of shit there. Maybe that's part of why it didn't work is because nobody there knows who they are. But it was always. I never saw a good show there. I saw good moments at shows, but it was always like a little. There were always just moments of chaos and anxiety as far as. And maybe some people like that. I don't like that as far as just a room full of people who are just stone-faced, disrespectful of the art that's happening up there. They don't care. They're just there to drink, or they're there to heckle or just talk shit, or they just came from knockouts and they're fucking trying to keep the party going, or they're about to go to whatever. There's just all a hodgepodge of disaster going on. And it was always interesting. But there were some shows where he did like, we're gonna crown the queen of Albuquerque comedy, and we're gonna crown the king of Albuquerque comedy. So there's one show with like 10 female comics, 10 male comics, and people were encouraged to heckle the whole time. And I assume this is how the show on the 15th will go. 15th at Safe House Stilling, in some sense, but I would expect yours to be a little more organized, is that when people, especially because he said heckle freely, if your first joke didn't work, it's over, and they are going to boo you off the stage. It devolved from heckling to just hate very fast. And
see, that's exactly why I wanted to do. I'm thinking about extending it to 90, but at least 60 seconds.
I do think that's a good structure.
Calm. Because that's one of the best elements I like from their Gong show. Was at least these guys have 3 minutes to swim. And if they eat, if they're horrible, they'll get knocked off.
Well, give the comic a chance to earn the audience's attention and respect. Because if right off the bat, like, I don't want to talk shit about him, but if you were there, you know who it was. They were at the comedy show, at the booing show at Bourbon and Boots. He went up there. His first joke didn't work, and the audience fucking hated him right off. I don't think he made it a minute, and he left in a huff, like he didn't even stick around, and it was so brutal. And it set the tone for the whole show. I think he went first at the whole show, and it was so bad.
Phil Romero?
No, I don't. Phil would not.
It could have been
because
I heard a story about that from Buck on his podcast.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Is his comic still active?
Yeah.
Damn.
But
hopefully they recovered from it.
Oh, he's fine.
Good.
He's fine. I just don't want to.
Yeah, that's fine.
I haven't talked about it with him, and I know it affected him.
Yeah, it was a thing, right?
But
it was a thing.
Because it was so fucking rough, and it wasn't necessarily fair because they just didn't like one joke, and then they were like, "We'll fucking kill you." And the vibe in there is hostile enough that you're like not necessarily, even if you're a confident comic, you'd probably feel a little bit like, "Hey, if I'm bombing, this isn't just a bomb. Like, am I safe to go to my car?" And so it was just bad, and it ended up being a fine show overall. I think like there were highs and lows, which is probably what they wanted overall. But when you did bad, you did really fucking bad. And I think the way you have it set up, where it's like, if you get 2 minutes or so to sort of earn the audience's attention, and they might be like, "Yeah, this guy's not my favorite, but I'm not gonna fucking heckle him because he's doing fine. Other people like him, or whatever." Kind of creates a sort of equilibrium in the audience where it's like you encourage the heckling, but it's a comedy show at the end of the day. It's not a heckling show. It's a comedy show with heckling,
Right, and that's why I also added yesterday or 2 days ago in that group chat, was like, hey, if the audience doesn't feel, that's the one thing I'm worried about, is the variable of the audience, is like if people in the audience aren't comfortable heckling, or they're not comfortable trying to say a funny
Judges
thing
might do
or
it.
whatever. Well, no, that's why I have the panel there, is to help guide the audience. But even if that doesn't go well, they can just do suggestions.
But you got Buck on the panel?
Yeah.
He could do that himself.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know. Oh, yeah.
Because if somebody up there is fucking eating shit, he'll let him have it. So.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted him. Eddie, unfortunately, is not going to make it, so I'm looking for one more panelist. But that's why I wanted to, again, not only just book the best of Albuquerque, but especially get him on the panel. 'Cause I want to build a reputation off this show. And he knows that. It's like, oh, shit, it went well. Go back in July.
Yeah.
Hopefully let us come back in July. But,
Yeah, it should be good. Should be good. And, like I said, doing something different, but with intention, and sort of with a clear goal of how we want this to go. I mean, and credit to Caleb, that's what he did with the roasts. He was like, "Yeah, I bit off more than I can chew. I'm doing my best, guys." And it was like, "Hey, man, you took a big swing, and it mostly worked out." So
yeah. Well, nobody could ever say that was a bomb, or that was a bad show, or it was a train wreck.
I don't think anybody had a bad time, which is rare. That's good.
Exactly. So what I'm curious about for you is, obviously you love joke writing, and you love the process of pulling together a set. What has kept you loving stand-up, if anything, outside of that? And then, where do you have a plan? Where do you see this going, if anywhere?
Man, I don't know where it's going. Hopefully somewhere good. Follow me at Tripp Stelnicki. What keeps me loving it is to be, there's an answer of this that's very arrogant. And that is that I'm good at it, and I like being good at it. And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm the fucking man, I'm better than other people. I don't. Any comic in Albuquerque, New Mexico, who has that sort of attitude is a fucking clown. And I don't think anybody necessarily does deep down in their heart. But it's we're all here, we're all doing our But I know when I do well, I like doing well, and I like getting better at it. And so that is fun for me. I like the challenge of it. I think it's an art form that I love, and I do consider it an art form because it's just you. It's what do you got? There's no artifice. There's no mask. I mean, you can do a character, you can do whatever, but at the end of the day, it's you. And so what do you got, And I love that as far as writing jokes and coming up with material, it's a, not to get too like therapeutic about it, but it is, if you're any good at it, I think it's an exercise in self excavation. Like, you have to get to what you really believe and what you care about and how you go through life. And if a joke's not working, there's a million reasons why a joke might not work, but for me, most often, if something's not quite right, at the end of the day, when I look at it under the microscope, it's because I'm not being fully honest about it, or this isn't how I really feel, even in a joking way. Like, it's not coming from the right place.
Well, I brought up a little bit earlier, but like, that's why that virtue signaling shit doesn't work. And that's why it, like, even with people who do firmly believe it, it even makes it cornier. Like, it's the inverse of comedy. Just saying something to get clapped, or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? 'Cause it's like, yeah, you might believe what you believe in, but it's not coming from a place of I want to entertain. It's coming from the way it comes off, at least to me anyway, and to a lot of other people I've talked to about this, is it comes off as like, well, I might not be that funny, but I can make you agree with something. And if you agree with something enough, you can clap. And if you clap enough, I can trick my brain into thinking that's a good response. You know what I mean? Like, that's why it kind of takes away from it. Because you're right. Like, if you don't believe in your own joke, and that means you don't have the proper amount of confidence in it to deliver it, the audience is going to immediately snuff that out. Like, oh,
Yeah.
this is kind of phony. This is nonsense. Phonier than it should be.
Yeah.
That's why, like, in my opinion, the best comedians, they're not just telling you jokes. It's like you're having a one-sided conversation,
Right.
but they just happen to be the funniest person in the room.
Yeah.
Rather than just spouting off, like, things that they think will make you make noise.
Well, I agree. I mean, like, the term you use is virtue signaling, and I don't have a better term, but it's not comedy. If it's, it's like, and so I'm not saying you can't do that, but for me, that doesn't work. Like, there are certain.
Well, who does it work for? That's the issue.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I just don't. I don't have an axe to grind about that, because whatever people want to do, they can do. For me, and comedy I like.
You choose to be funny.
Obviously, that's
well. Because think about it. Let's say like
first
this,
things
right?
first.
Yeah,
be funny.
Let's say like this, right? Let's say someone's saying something about COVID, right? That's an easy thing to pick at.
Sure,
it's a big thing people still talk about. I don't understand. Let's say you had two options, where you could just say something that is, morally correct, and you get a clapter out of it.
Yeah,
and the subject is COVID, or you can make a funny joke about COVID and make people lose their mind laughing. I think option 2 tends to be the better one.
Well, that's what a comedian would do, right? And so somebody who's choosing option 1 is not necessarily, and I'm not gatekeeping what comedy is or isn't. I'm just saying what I think. But, like, for instance, I think I've been called like a comedian who does like political stuff. I don't agree with that at all. But I get why people say that, because I'll make fun of Trump or I'll make fun of whatever. But my joke is never about, I don't get up there and go, Donald Trump's a piece of shit.
Right. Yeah.
There's no, like, if anything, my joke is, and I said this earlier about how my premise might be about something me and my wife said together or something me and my wife do. The joke's actually going to be about how I'm unsure of myself. At the end of the day, that's what the joke's about. But if I have a fucking little sideways punchline about Trump halfway through my joke about how me and my wife are trying to get pregnant, that's not virtue signaling, obviously, but it does key the audience into a sensibility, but that's not the point. And so the difference is if you're trying to, and like we said earlier, like I don't think comedy should ever, if you're trying to make a point, you're doing something different. And maybe there's a time and place for that, but if you're trying to make people laugh at the comedy club on a Friday night, that's probably not it for me. But if your joke invokes the real world, that gives it some weight. and if it invokes how people feel about, like last night at the Mike, that's a new joke I did about, have you ever seen a car with a bumper sticker you agree with driving like a fucking idiot?
So good, dude.
That's not, which at the end of that joke, I think probably if you're in the audience, you probably are thinking like, and then obviously it's not done, but it's like, if you're in the audience last night, you're probably thinking like, I bet I know how this guy feels about politics in general. But that's not what you're thinking, you know? Like, that's in the back of your head, if anything. You don't want that to be the first thing you think when you're like, yeah, boy, that guy was really... Like, I can't think of... I guess it's ironic I feel this way because my first comedian I really thought was funny, like the first person I ever saw on YouTube back when, like, YouTube was new, who I fucking just laughed so hard, and I was like, it's like a magic trick. How do you even do this? Was Lewis Black.
Oh,
who
man.
Is still to this day, like, love him, but...
Hell, I haven't heard that name in...
Yeah. Look him up. He's got some
he's
gold.
Severely one of the
still
one
out
of the
there.
most underrated comedians.
Great.
Oh yeah.
But he's very explicitly political. I mean, his bits are about how Congress is dysfunctional or whatever,
right.
you know, or like, but, and so I say that as like a counterweight to everything else I'm saying, where I'm like, that worked for him, but that was a different time. Like, at a comedy show today, in the year of our Lord 2024, if you get up there and you just go like, crazy election, everybody, huh? Buttholes are clenched. Everybody's already made up their minds. Unless you have a joke so fucking funny that you can unite America in this comedy room right now, in this comedy club or this back room of a bar, which I highly doubt, because you're not even wearing a clean shirt, but fucking shut the fuck up. Don't even start with that. Do more work on the joke, or educate yourself more, or talk about your dick. I'm very clear, like, and this is coming from someone who, like I said, like, I don't think of myself as a political comedian, but I certainly try to infuse it when it works. But I don't start the joke from that place. It's like, if that adds to the joke, mazel tov, hooray, if it gets a laugh. But I've certainly tried shit, and I had a Biden joke back when he was first president, and it just wasn't working. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna, I think I added it because I was like, I've got some Trump punchlines. I should try and be, you know, I don't want anyone to feel excluded or whatever. But it just wasn't working. Wasn't funny. And if I were the kind of person who was trying to make a point or trying to be liked more than I want to be funny, maybe I would have kept working on it, because I'm like, I want everyone to feel like they have their voice heard in my act. I have to be the beacon of unity. Fuck that. It wasn't funny. Cut the joke.
Sometimes it only applies to one political leader. And
I mean, Trump is funny. Trump is a fucking idiot.
No. I'm saying like a specific joke sometimes will only apply to Biden and not Trump. Sure. And then sometimes it will only apply to Trump and not Biden. And I think
can't try to find like a false balance.
Right.
In whether it's, I mean, I was a reporter. I don't think you can find it in the media necessarily, and certainly not in comedy. I would say, whatever your point of view is, go with it 100%, as long as it's funny. Like, just don't try to water it down with, because I was trying to do that. I was trying to be like I could be middle of the road, and I was like, if I come up with a Biden joke tomorrow that fucking kills, I'll do it till the day I die. But I haven't, so I'm not gonna seek it out necessarily. I just think, like, to the original point, I got off on a tangent, but the original point you made is like how just virtue signaling in comedy is just sort of it's just dead weight, and like.
But I wouldn't call yourself. I wouldn't. Any of the material I've seen you do, I wouldn't say it's like overtly political at all. Because you have these like quick punches that just supplement exactly what you're saying. It supplements a greater point.
It's not the point of the joke. It's not the message.
Yeah.
The joke is not about,
Republican lawmakers.
That's just a little.
I love it.
That's just a little. And if you didn't, and here's why I think it works is because even if you're a Republican sitting there and you're mad, you're probably like, oh, it's just a quick thing. Like I keep it adjacent to the point of the joke or the message of the joke or the whole momentum of the joke. Even is just like, yeah, if I got a little fucking thing about Ted Cruz, I'll throw that in there because he's ugly. Whatever. Like, it's not. But okay, as an example to the virtue signaling idea, If you get up there and you're explicitly political, Lewis Black aside, God bless him, he did something different. I don't know. It was a different time. There was someone a couple weeks ago who just got up and just wanted to talk about how Joe Biden's committing a genocide. And I was like, keep it on Twitter. Don't fucking burden us with your goddamn diatribe, especially because it's not funny at all.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
Okay, back to the point about, you started this by saying my joke last night was great about, and I invoked the Holocaust. If you were personally affected by the Holocaust, that's probably not going to be your favorite joke.
Invoking the Holocaust every Monday at Lizard Tail.
It's probably not your favorite joke in the world, but I don't think at the end of the day it's offensive, because I'm not making fun of people who died in the Holocaust or the fact that the Holocaust happened. It's all about the intent of the joke. If you, I might have mentioned this before, or just like my perfect example of this, and then I'll shut up on this tangent. I got going.
This is great. No, this is great.
I don't even think I made a good point. But thank you. But my perfect example of this is Louis C.K.'s joke about, and this is a good barometer, I think, for the spectrum. You're talking about like virtue signaling on one side, and then you have over here people who just want to be offensive for the sake of it, who are just like
the shit.
fucking I said it, I'm not supposed to say it.
Yeah, like shock comics and
both,
shit like that. Yeah.
fuck off, both of you. There's funny in the middle somewhere. But Louis' joke about, it's not necessarily a 9/11 joke, and that's kind of the point, is he's like, I think you can tell how good a person you are based on how quickly you jerked off after 9/11.
Yeah.
And for me, it's between Towers 1 and 2. And the reason that works is because he's the butt of the joke. He's talking about how he's a piece of shit. Yeah. He's not like, did you see those people doing cartwheels off the 112th floor? What a fucking, like, it's not, oh yeah, 'cause I'm not supposed to say that. Bleh. Or it's not over here like, we have to be compassionate to the Afghani people who were victimized by George W. Bush. Yeah, obviously, but that's not fucking funny. Jesus Christ. There's a place for compassion, and then there's a place for joking.
Right.
And if you are, and it comes down to like punching up and punching down, I think. Like, what's your intent? Yeah. Like my joke, my invoking the Holocaust joke.
You're not making fun of Holocaust
I'm not.
victims.
I mean, if anything, I'm talking about how my family's fucked up. Because it's about how, whatever. But it's, it comes down to where you're aiming, I think. And if you're just aiming at getting people to agree with you, you're going to have a hard time being funny also.
Yeah.
If, what I agree with is a good joke. Like, there's nothing I feel more in my soul when I laugh at a joke and I'm like, I agree with that. I don't think that, but I'm like, my body is laughing. That's me agreeing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I don't need to vote alongside you in the booth and feel like, yes, we are compatriots in a battle for freedom or whatever. It's just
not
like,
about who's right. And that's why, like, you brought this up earlier, and this is something I'm going to be working at for a very long time. And, all right, riding big with the Zens during the shortage. Good for you.
Dude, I ordered them online.
Good for you.
It's the only place to get them.
Oh, from Europe?
Zyn.com.
Oh, because there's like the American site and there's like the European.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't
know which one.
So the
Are they cheaper in Europe?
I don't know, but they're better. My fucking roommate,
interesting.
His buddy got him some, and we got the black cherry and peach.
Didn't even know they had those. Crazy.
I'm not even like a huge Zen guy. I'm more of a tobacco guy.
Yeah.
Also because Zens just make me sick immediately.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like I can throw a wad of that in for hours and even like rechange it.
Maybe you're allergic to something. That's weird.
I have no idea.
Who knows what's in it? It's just chemicals.
No, dude. Actually, somebody took a Cool Mint Zen, and I saw this on TikTok, so who the fuck knows? But this guy, he took a Zen pouch, and he had cut it open, kind of like dumped a little bit of it onto the microscope lens thing. You know what I'm talking about? Where
do I even want to hear this?
Where you put it like that? No, dude. 99.2% nicotine, 0.0 whatever percent
asbestos.
It was like small traces of xanthan gum or something.
Okay, that's edible.
And then salt.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's just straight nicotine.
Well, I love that.
Yeah.
Because the shortage is real.
Yep.
And so I bought some of the Ons.
Oh, yeah.
They're dog shit.
Those are interesting. I had a coffee one, and it was fine. But it wasn't, like...
For me, this is why I like the Zins. They have an infrastructure to them. The Ons disintegrate. Like, when you touch an Ons, it feels like a little paper diaper. It's just like...
That's a fact.
It's just dust.
Yeah.
The Zyn it feels like...
It stays together.
Yeah. It's like...
It's a strong American family.
Exactly.
And the Ons are illegal Guatemalans.
An On is just is an anchor baby. No, I don't know. No, the Zyns are... they're way more expensive. That's why I was like, oh, shortage. Maybe I'll try the Ons. They're cheaper. Hello, changing my life. And no, I was like, I'll pay more. Well, that was bad.
Because my roommate, he went to... he had gone on to... I don't want to give too much of his shit away because he's on the podcast regularly. He's about to take an extended vacation. Oh. And so he had to go on to
Are you going to kill him?
A certain...
That's what that sounded like.
Like when Bateman's leaving the voicemail on Jared Leto's phone. Went off to Europe. I'll catch you later.
Yeah. Extended vacation.
But no, he's about to go off, and so he had to go to a certain installation here in town, and they had fully stocked Zins. God. So he bought like 2 logs of the 6 milligram Cool Mint, and he's just stockpiling down there. Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah, I thought it was just my spot. Then I realized it was broader than that. It's a real crisis.
Well,
but yeah, online worked fine. I was happy with that.
Well, because I had
back to cigarettes.
It first started when the shortage started happening. I was driving into Austin, and I stopped at a gas station to get some because I didn't want to just chew tobacco the whole time.
Yeah,
and it was helping me stay awake. And I'd walked in. I didn't even notice a sign on the door at first. But I just walked in, and I looked behind the counter. There were, like, none there except for, like, the citrus and then, like, menthol. And I was like, do you guys have any, like, other Zins in the back? And the guy laughed. No, come on, man. And I was like, okay.
Especially on the road to Austin, where I'm sure it's just Zin country down there. Yeah. But,
is that a new term for white trash? Is Zen country?
I don't know. I think white trash people still probably just smoke Marlboros. They would look down on the Zins as some pussy shit.
What the fuck were we talking about?
That's a good question.
We were talking about joke writing.
I was making some
virtue signaling.
Totally windbag analogy about whatever it is, virtue signaling.
Here's what I wanted to ask you. So, this is something I'm starting to do, and it didn't start out as intentionally as a writing exercise, but it's just like a phrase or a word or a term that I think is funny that could be a punchline. Mm-hmm. Do you ever find yourself like, oh, that could be funny. How do I work my way to that? Like, how do I justify that punchline?
All the time.
How is that? Do you find that like elevates your writing to do it in a back engineering kind of way?
I don't even think of that as back engineering. I think that's engineering because I think you write something down in your notebook or your phone, wherever you keep your little funny ideas. Someone says something or you think something or you're about to fall asleep and you're like, don't forget this. It never makes sense in the morning. Like, that's the seed. And maybe, it's the punchline. It's the end. But you work from there. Like, for me, I don't know how I write jokes, but they just appear and then I say them and they tend to work. But if you have something that you think will work, that you will, if you work at it, that will become a joke because that, like for me, I'll think like you said, okay, there's an idea or a word. I want to say that on stage. I'm like, yes, I want to get to a point where that's going to I know that'll get a laugh. Yes. I will move heaven and earth to figure out how to build the joke around that idea. And maybe in the ultimate final product of that joke, that isn't even in there because it didn't make the cut because I did it 100 times and that's the weakest part. Cut it out. That was the seed. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. But
I had to do that recently. That's funny you say that. I was working so hard to justify a punchline and a joke, and it just wasn't fucking working. I was like, what if I just cut this off?
Yeah.
Restructure it, re-angle, and then go for it. And this made it so much fucking better.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
Sometimes that is hard in general. If you are married to, this is a writing thing, but it's like you got to kill your darlings. Because you're like, I fucking love this line. I wrote it and I thought it was smart.
Yeah.
Fucking, it's killing the joke, man. Don't be cute. Cut it. Cut it now. Just fucking, I have a lot. For me, I've gotten better at this, but especially earlier on, I would just go, my setups were way too wordy. If you've been watching this podcast, you're probably like, no shit. And I just had to really be disciplined about, like, get to the fucking funny part, dude. No one is here to watch you masturbate with your idea. Fucking do it. Like,
that
they
is
paid
an
money.
interesting way to put it, because you could tell that I'm sorry to cut you off.
No.
That's a great point, because you could tell, even at the pro level, there are just some comedians that love to hear themselves talk.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that, because my favorite comedian of all time is Chappelle.
Yeah.
He is the greatest, in my opinion.
He's on the mountaintop for sure.
And especially in the latter third or even like latter half of his career, he's become the storyteller comedian. You know what I mean? And
Talk about virtue signaling.
And he's so...
And I love Chappelle.
Really?
You don't think he's... With him, like, half his new specials are just like... He just wants to make a point about trans people. And I'm like, yeah, it's funny, but also, like, dude, this is a little too far in the other direction as far as, like... I'll watch him, his newer specials, and I'm like, I'm laughing, but I'm also like, all right, but stick to that, dude. What the fuck?
Well, I think... So the second to last one that he did... Granted, I've only seen it twice, and I haven't seen it in the last year. Like 8 months or a year, so I've seen it the last time. I think that one got kind of misconstrued. So I didn't take it as him shitting on trans people.
Is that the one where he talks about his friend who died?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the last one I watched.
Yeah, that I took that more as like a really backwards, like... Because that friend that died was a comedian.
Right.
So I took that as like a very... Not diabolical, like very... It was a tribute.
Sure.
Through comedy. But his brand, a Chappelle brand of comedy. But I think a lot of people really did. I'm not saying that you did, but like I think a lot of people latched on like the quote-unquote anti-trans stuff. But my example I want to bring up, though, is if you haven't seen it, the new one he just did like a year ago called The Dreamer.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's his last one. It's not his best. But I think that one is a good example of a comedian that can do these 3, 5, almost 6 minute long setups. Maybe not 6 minutes long, but these longer setups. But the punchline just fucking sends it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm going to be Chappelle in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is like, okay, well, I see what's possible like at that level. Mm-hmm. And I've learned this about myself, not just through doing the podcast, but like I'm working on that joke about Fantasy World. Mm. I like telling that joke. I like working on that joke partly because I get to stay on one subject for longer than 65 seconds.
Right.
I kind of get to live in that world for a bit and let that breathe and let it. And obviously, there's the obvious advantage of it extending out my set. So I can make that into a 3-minute bit. Now I have 11 minutes to my name. Now I have 15 minutes to my name. Whatever it is. But that's where I kind of struggle with it. Is it's like because there's a spectrum where you have like the David Tells or the Mark Normans.
Just
some
machine gun.
Two of the greatest working right now. Oh, for a lot of people, the greatest to ever do it. And certainly for Attell and Norman's on that way as well. You have that on that end. You have every other type, and then you have like the George Carlins, the Dave Chappelles, where they are just storytelling.
Right.
And it's like, where do I fit in that? Where can I operate in that at this level? Like that type of thing. Because again, that's a perfect way to put it. I don't want to just get on stage and make people listen to me speak. I already do that here.
Well, I will say, it's tough to. I would say I don't know, but I would say it's tough to try to create that persona or permission structure for yourself, because the reason Chappelle can do that now is because he has people who pay $200
Right.
to sit in the bleachers and watch him talk about fucking anything.
Oh yeah, I'm not disregarding the star power. I'm just saying the possibility. Like, if it can happen at the mountaintop, what does
Yeah.
that look like at the
As
the
an
base?
art form, like trying
Yeah.
to bring something into how can I do my version of that? That's very valuable. Like, I think, and also just to go back to that quickly, like I agreed that the label that he got brushed with was too broad. I was like, because when you watch it, it's more nuanced than a headline, right? And so then, especially with TikTok and everything, people just, who knows what's true anymore, right? It's just like, I saw this, and so it's a narrative now, and it's like, I do think he has some issues with that, but that's not for me to, try to parse out. I don't care. It's for him to figure out. But I also watched it, and I was like, this wasn't as bad as people were saying. But anyway, to your point about like storytelling, I think there's so much craft that goes into what they make someone like Chappelle doing a fucking 10-minute setup to even just one joke. There's so much craft that goes into this the art of storytelling and holding attention, and even if it's not funny in the sense of machine gun fire laughs, it's still amusing.
Entertaining,
Yeah, and it's not like there's a huge difference between a boring story and a good story. You dump the girl who tells the boring stories and you marry the one who tells the good stories. We all know that.
That's called getting brownie points, ladies and gentlemen.
But we all know there's a huge difference between it, but the experience of figuring out how to hold attention on the fucking tip of a needle when you are in a room in a live fucking, you've been telling jokes and now you want to slow it down, and it's almost, there's a musical quality to it, and then you gotta just fucking keep people stringing along, and it's gonna pay off, and just to have, you gotta earn an audience's trust to be able to sort of run the line on that a little bit, even if it's just a 5-minute story. If you're trying to do a set at a mic talking about fantasy world, you have to, like, I've gone into a mic and said, like, okay, I'm trying to work on something longer. I still, and maybe this is just fear, but I will still start with a joke that's different. Because I want everyone to I want to get a laugh, and then maybe you'll let me tell a story, because you're like, yeah, he's okay.
No, there is something to that. And again, it's 100% attributed to the fact that it is still, even though it's an open mic, it's a live experience, the live interaction. Like I was telling Jake that last night. Like I was trying to work on, because I have a bit that talks about lock-ins in churches.
Yeah.
That goes into an absolutely insane scenario that I'll tell you off camera, because I don't want to completely, give that away.
True. What's happened? What you've told on stage?
What do you mean?
Don't you talk about priests and fucking?
Oh yeah, I did do that last night. Yeah, so all that I did last night.
I heard it was it at AJ's show? I don't know. I heard it somewhere. At the Tractor.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. You saw it at Tractor. I did do it at Tractor. You're completely
Yeah.
right. So yeah, that. I'm working on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling Jake that, Otero, last night after I had sat back down. And I was like, it's funny because that line that I have about it being a horny night, that fucking cracked at Dry Heat.
Mm-hmm.
Fell flat at that open mic, but the difference being that line came after 6.5 minutes of just joke, laughter, earning trust.
They like you. You won them over. They're on your side, so they're gonna laugh.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's hard. Talk about like false information. It's hard to do that at an open mic if you really just want to work on like your dirtier stuff or like your more offensive stuff. It's hard to get an accurate read on that. You know what I mean?
You're right. But you just have to. The easy solution to that is you just have to go into it knowing you're not going to get a laugh. Mm-hmm. Like, you just have to do it Do it for the muscle memory. Do it for like look into people's eyes and be like, how is this landing? Like you're not going to get the laugh you're going to get because it's not the same context that this joke is normally going to appear in. Like you have to look. I mean, maybe this is different for people at different stages of the comedy journey or whatever. But for me, where I'm at, like when I go to a mic, I won't go unless I have something specific to work on, or else I just get depressed.
Well, think about it like this. Like, and this is so what you just said. Like, you're going there for the muscle memory and delivery. How does it sound coming out of your mouth? How does it work on a stage? Like, how does it work like that?
Yeah,
that got explained to me through a clip of like one of Bobby Lee's podcasts where he was like, "Yeah, you don't go to fucking open mics for laughs. You go to open mics to practice."
Yeah,
and I'm glad I learned that, or I heard that early on.
It's definitely fun to get laughs, but you can't that can't be priority one.
Exactly,
like,
which sounds so counterintuitive to you. Like, yeah, you should be there to get, because if your joke's good, it's going to get a laugh.
Yeah.
Well, in that environment, turns out maybe not. And I'm so glad. I am so fucking glad that the first time I ever tried that full like lock-in bit was at a show. And not because if I had tried that at an open mic, I probably would have just flicked it away.
Right.
But instead, it was a product of me and AJ sitting down together and writing, and then me, AJ, and Jake sitting down together and writing and figuring shit out, where all of that came. And I had a point. I was going with this. I don't know. I'm just glad that. Yeah. So at an open mic, you're going there and you're going for the muscle memory. You're going there to see how it sounds, and yeah, it's just interesting. Like having to figure out like, okay, does this have legs? It just didn't get laughs. Does this truly not have any legs? Should I spend time doing it? Oh, waste of time. That's where I was going, because you said if you're just going there not getting laugh, you get depressed. It's like yeah. And then you think about, at least the way that my brain works. If you're not going to an open mic with a real purpose and a real intent to work on something and get something accomplished, it is such, like, yeah, it's cool to hang out with everybody and kick back and talk shit. Like, that's fun.
Yeah.
But on the bigger picture, it is a severe waste of time. Like, when people go, like, I didn't have anything prepared, then why the fuck are you here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've said this before, but, like, when people talk about how, like, oh, comedy's a fun hobby, I'm like, there are healthier hobbies.
There are healthier hobbies that don't waste your time.
You should get a chessboard or something, dude. Like,
read. Learn something.
But, like, you can also, like, I mentioned we talked about the muscle memory or whatever, just running through your jokes, just practicing being on stage. You cannot get worse if you're on stage. The only way you can get worse is if you're not doing it. At the same time, something I try and do at mics now is I just try and practice being funny. Like, if that makes sense. Like, it's very...
Yeah, your personality on stage.
Well, yeah, just, like, try and get into whatever your voice is, if you know what that is, and just fucking try a joke in a different way. Flip it around, or whatever, and if someone's talking, just talk to them. And I'm not saying, like, go and just do crowd work, because that's also a huge waste of time. Shut the fuck up if you're doing crowd work at a mic. But... like, there's a certain, for me at least, I don't know if this makes sense, but I get something out of if I go to a mic and I'm like, I don't necessarily have a new joke I want to work on. I'll do something old, maybe try and find something that I didn't give enough of a shot, try and bring it back. But just practice being funny. Like, go up with the right mindset, go up with the idea of, I'm going to be the light in the room right now, and I'm going to hold attention, and I'm going to just be the version of myself I want to be on stage. When it's going well. Even if this mic fucking sucks, everyone who's gone up before me fucking sucks, everyone in here wants to die, I'm going to try and be funny in spite of that and just go fight uphill on that.
Well, especially in a city like Albuquerque, again, there are some produced shows I'm not going to do ever.
Well, yeah, half the shows here are
I did them once and but
brutal.
But stage time is valuable at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And...
if you make the most of it.
If you make the most of it, right. And you brought up something at the beginning of the conversation about how you had to get over, like, hey, I know how I look. I really need to be likable. I need to be, like, whatever. And I definitely have that, for sure. Not just, like, in the way that I look, but the way that I speak. Because of growing up, going, like, a big reason for it, I think, is spending 6 years at a fucking military school. And then right after that, joining the military.
You stand up straight. You enunciate.
Yeah, so it's very, like and this was a problem that I had really up until, like, I started entering my mid-20s, to be honest with you, was if you weren't my close friend and you spoke to me, 9 times out of 10, I came off very asshole-ish.
Sure.
And I did not mean to. I didn't want to. But I just came off as very asshole-ish.
Just the cover of the book, yeah.
Exactly. So, me going on stage, I have to, and that's something that I think I worked on a lot, and I think I did it, that's one of the best things, or that's why this past Saturday at Dry Heat was my best set, was because I finally lightened up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I finally,
That's a big breakthrough.
was like,
Not take it so seriously. Also,
Yeah.
and you're talking about your persona, but broader than that, I mean, it took me probably like 3 years to get to the idea of like, oh yeah, I started doing this because I thought it would be fun, but I've been sucking so much that it's not fun. And then you start to be good, and you're like, oh yeah, it's fun to have fun, and it's a fucking amazing light switch. It is totally night and day when someone is having fun on stage, and you can tell and you can feel it as an audience member, as opposed to someone who's just going through the motions. You know it right away.
yeah.
Even if they're just going through the motions of a specific joke. Like, I had a joke that when I did quesadas for the first time, it's my joke about how I come from a gin and tonic family. Whatever. It's one of my older ones, but I always throw it in there. Usually it's very reliable. But it fucking ate shit at quesadas.
What?
And I was like, the reason I did it is I was like, we're in a fucking casino. Everybody here's drunk. You guys, that joke is just like, hey, alcohol is crazy, right?
That killed it, the Don't Tell down at Sobremesa.
Oh, it always works.
That did really well.
Fucking ate shit. And I realized it's because I'm sick of telling it, so it's retired. At least for a while. I was like, I watched it back and I was like, there's no other reason for this not to work. It was the kind of, that ate shit so bad that it was one of those moments where you're like, am I speaking English? Like, did I start speaking in tongues or something? Like, you guys are just...
Do you feel like you fell too much into muscle memory?
It must have been that.
You were just like telling the joke.
I don't think it's even...
You weren't excited about the laugh that could be coming?
It's all of that and more. It's just like, it's all in here. It's like, am I excited to tell it? But it, like, you know, John Mulaney has something about how, I don't know if it was him. Doesn't matter. I shouldn't quote it if I can't remember. But you're trying to present this as if it's the first time you're saying it. Obviously, no one there who's ever seen a comedy show before is under any illusions that you're just fucking riffing, unless you're like Rory Scovel at that one thing he did where he just made it up for whatever. But if you present it as if you're aware of what's coming, like, it's hard to explain, but there's a difference between someone there's a difference. I can feel it when I'm excited to try a new joke that I've never done before, even in a shitty open mic, no one's listening, I'm excited to try it, versus I've done this 100 times, it always works, blah, 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 and it's not that different, but there's a subtle light in the eye that's just not going to get it across. And people are like, he's not, there's just something missing.
So is that something you're maybe consciously starting to work on, where it's like maintaining the excitement even though I've done this 100 times?
Back to what I said about just going to an open mic and trying to practice being funny.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't matter if you're sick of telling the joke. If you're funny and if you're telling it right, and if you're in the pocket and your headspace is where it should be and you're present in the moment and you're clicking on all cylinders, shouldn't matter if you've told the joke twice or 10,000 times. Like, if you are in it, if you're in the material delivering the joke, not just saying it, like, fucking deliver it the right way, as if you're telling it to a stranger for the first time, because you are, then it shouldn't matter. And that's what I mean by, like, practicing being funny. It's like, I don't even like this joke, but let me fucking give it 110% of what it should get.
I know we're like an hour and a half deep into this, but I really hope there are local comedians listening to this. Comedians in general. But I really hope that's valuable information.
I don't even remember what I said.
No, that's a good way to put it. It's like, you have to act like you're doing it for the first time, and because you're giving that, because you give off the impression that you're having fun. This is a good time to be at. You don't look annoyed to be there, but if you can make the audience feel special, make them feel unique. It's almost like, who the fuck told me this? I think this was Jared, and it's a piece of advice that he got from somebody. I forget who. But it's like you're flirting with the audience.
He does that, so that sounds like him. A little too much, honestly.
I wish he got out on more shows, and I tell him that.
Yeah, he's funny.
I tell him that, like, cause
Got good jokes.
when he had went up, I think it was the second time that Jeffries was here.
Maybe he was on the first one, which was when I was on. So
Okay, yeah, it was
might
that
have
one.
done both. I don't know.
He had one of the best sets of the fucking night, and I told him, I was like, dude, like, why aren't you on more shows? Because you fucking have it, man. Anyway,
He's got great energy.
Like,
Like he brings it. Like what we're
Yeah.
talking about. Like he's
charisma and shit.
naturally funny, and so to your point, or this just made me think of this, where it's like, don't go through the motions. Tell it like you're telling it for the first time. Part of that is, I don't know who said this, but anyone who's at a show, even if it's the shittiest show in the world, they don't want it to be a shitty show. They left the house thinking, like, you need to approach, when you get booked on a show, even if don't even forget booked on a show. If you're going to a fucking open mic to do stand-up comedy, respect where you are and respect what you're doing by giving it enough effort that you get something out of it for you first. Because that's the only way anyone else is going to get anything out of it. If you get up there, even if you're just like, I'm sick of looking at my notebook and I'm just working on stuff, whatever, fucking give it something. Like, fucking try. I don't know if this is good. If like you're saying, if anyone's listening, this is my advice to anyone who, especially in this scene, God bless everybody. I got no beef with anybody. I would love it if people tried a little more. Because, and I say that with love, because people too often are just going through the motions. They're like, I'm a comedian, and they think of themselves as a comedian, and that's enough somehow. And I have my jokes, and maybe I have a new joke, and I'm working on stuff. I go to the mics, I'm a comedian. Forget that. Forget being a comedian. Are you trying to be funnier? Always. Try and get better at it. And maybe you've reached your ceiling, and that's the way it is. Maybe this is just me being a competitive person. But for me, it's not about I'm a comedian. It's about I'm trying to be funnier always. That's like saying, like, I'm a comedian. That's like, yeah, I'm in the pool. I'm like, I want to win the fucking Olympics, Like, I'm trying to get better. I'm in the pool, but I'm also working on shit. And so that's just, maybe that doesn't make sense, but for me, that's just like a conceptual shift as far as, yeah, I do comedy. I tell my family and friends I do comedy, and sometimes I get booked on shows, but I go to the mics and I just shit all over the mic, and the host hates seeing me because I never try, and even if I'm working on new shit, I'm not writing to improve it, or if I got a laugh, I'm not thinking about how I can connect that to another bit. And maybe my standards are too high and I'm a fucking snob, but
No.
I like it. I like to see somebody who is working on it. If someone's just up there jacking off, or they're just up there because they needed to get out of the house, I'm tuned out. I am fully disassociated.
Well, it's like watching a stranger. It's like you said a little earlier. It's like watching somebody masturbate. I'm glad you're having a good time, but we don't want to see that.
They're not even, though. It's a sad masturbation most of the time. It's just like
have you seen
low energy?
Have you seen the movie World's Greatest Dad with Robin Williams?
No.
Oh, dude,
I should. I love Robin Williams.
That runs right in your like dry sense of humor. Like, you're very like dark. Well, not dry, but dark sense of humor.
Sure.
So it's about. I don't even know if I want to tell you the plot, because I went into it blind.
Leave it alone.
Dude, it's good. It's Robin Williams.
I never watched trailers or anything.
In one of the best roles he's ever done, in my opinion.
Okay. Check it out.
It's fucking phenomenal. Anyway.
Just the idea of, like, maybe that sounded mean as far as just, like, you need to try. Because, like, I think, am I crazy when I say, like, I think a lot of people, and maybe it's not that they're not trying, it's that they're afraid, or that they have some block on stage that they're trying to get over, and they haven't quite felt like they're present in their body on stage yet. I get that. Like, you got to work through that, and there's stages to, like, feeling more comfortable and feeling like yourself on stage.
So that exists. That for sure exists. But I think there is an element to it. Because I had this conversation with Buck, and he said it on his podcast multiple times. There are... And this isn't just here. I'm sure it's everywhere. But it's like, it's people that do enough to where in their mind they can justify calling themselves a comedian. And you see that on stage. And I would only, and look, however people decide to live their lives, I truly don't care. But I'm coming from the same place that you are, because, and this is why I like you, why I respect you, because you actually, you actually care about comedy.
Yeah.
Like real shit. Like, you actually care. You know, this isn't like a hobby. This isn't like a fun fuck around thing that you do to justify having 2 to 3 beers on a Tuesday.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's something you respect, something you care about doing. That's why I held off, aside from just like lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem that I have. But that's why I held off on doing, even entertaining the idea of doing stand-up, was because I care about it too much. I love stand-up so much. I'm like, I can't do. That's for the that's for the truly talented.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That's for like those guys. I have so much respect for them. You guys can go have fun and figure that out.
Yeah, they're like, when you're from the outside looking in, you're like, that's a different species of thing. Like that it's like what they do is, I mean, when I discovered what comedy was when I was like a kid, like Lewis Black on YouTube, watching that, and I was like, this is a magic trick. Like, how is he doing this? And I still feel that way when I watch someone who's fucking clicking. Like Jim Jeffries comes to Dry Heat, and I'm watching from in the wings 5 feet away. I was like, this is fucking electric shit. Obviously, it doesn't feel like as much like a magic trick because I'm watching him sort of from my like technician's perspective. But it's just so precisely crafted, and everything that goes into it, it's effort. There's a beautiful effort coming through in all of it, and that's what I love about comedy when it's done with intention and with that sort of care for the craft. It's a beautiful thing. And yeah, it's intimidating from the outside looking in. I still get intimidated when you see somebody crush and you're like, God damn, I wish I was funnier. But
so this is something that I brought up on, I went on Pierce's podcast, the 505 Connection.
Okay.
And I think the episode came out yesterday. And this is something that I brought up, and I just want your input on it.
I love to give input.
So I don't feel like there are, I'm trying to figure out how to like enter this. So what upsets me about what we're talking about is that, again, purely from a time wasted perspective. If people are spending so much time doing something, taking so much time out of their day to go to mics and go to shows, and they say they're writing and all this stuff, and they're not progressing in the way that they should be, I'm trying to figure out, aside from the fact that, like, you know, Albuquerque is still growing and entertainment and nightlife here is still growing, and all the extremities that I can't affect directly at my level right now, right? There's all of that. But when it's kind of microscoped down, trying to figure out what is holding this comedy community back from producing monsters. Because we have the tools and we have the parts, but the car is not running. At least as well as it should. It's getting to your destination, but like we're blowing flat tires and the transmission's going out. And the first thing that really clicked recently for me is collaboration. I think there are so many of varying degrees of skill. There are so many comedians here that are in their own islands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's not enough real, like, how do I put this? Like, organic collaboration of, like, how can we make each other better? And that's why I give so much props to, you took a shit on it on that roast, but it was funny. But it's also partly the truth. But that's why I give a lot of credit to Sarah Kelly and Steph. Because at least Dry Heat, because there's not really...
I didn't know what you were talking about, and I was like, oh, yeah.
And this is a thing for...
I was kidding.
It was funny. No, it was funny, though. And it was partly true. That's what made it funny.
Yeah.
Well, part of it made it funny, right?
Yeah.
But with entertainment in general, outside looking in, there's no path. Like, how do I become a movie star, an actor? How do I become a musician? How do I become a comedian? How do I become a painter, a fucking whatever, right?
Yeah.
Credit where it's due, at least with Dry Heat, it's like, okay, they sponsor 2 open mics a week. They're open mics.
They're opening a gym. I mean, the gym is open. Do you want to get ripped?
Exactly. There's 2 open mics a week.
Yeah.
there's a free show a week at Elvado that you can potentially get booked on, and then there's the club, and then there's the writing session.
Yep.
So there are like the tools there, but there are people that I see that frequent all of these things, and it's like, what the fuck is missing? And I think the first piece of the puzzle is that collaboration. And the reason I bring that up is I've experienced it firsthand with AJ De Leon. So he, a month ago now, I'd say, he messages one of the guys that came through Quesada's, messaged Polar Bear.
Yeah.
And he was like, me and my buddy, because me and him have gotten tickets to go. Hey, me and my buddy, we're going to your show. I'd love to do 5 minutes. And the guy was like, okay, see you there. Yeah. Yeah. So then he hits me up about it. And he sends me the screenshot. And I'm like, oh, no shit. So I call him. And he tells me this on a Tuesday. And the show's Friday. And I was like, okay, what are you doing tonight? Nothing. We're going to sit down and write.
Yeah.
Like, if you're cool with me, my input, I don't want to impose, but like, if you're cool with me giving you input on your stuff, you need to have material to do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you've got open mic Wednesday, open mic Thursday. Beg Carla to get on Elvado on Friday or on Thursday because they already had a huge lineup because it's like the 1 year anniversary of Elvado.
Yeah.
So there was already like 6 people on there. It's like beg Carla to go on that fucking show just to get stage time.
Yep.
And then go to an open mic Friday, go to the show Friday night. It's a 9:30 show.
Yeah, get warm.
So you have time. So we sat down and we got stoned senseless and came up with some pretty good, I mean, not to suck my own dick, but some pretty good fucking material we came up with. Practice it out. Does it on Quesada's. He was nervous, you could tell, but he did really well.
Nice.
And he's got the footage to back it up. Like, for the level that he's at and the time that he was given.
Yeah, he's new.
First time in front of an audience like that. Well, that's not true. Second time because he did one of Buck's shows. I forget which. I think he did the Def Jam one.
Yeah, at Revel.
Yeah, and he did well. And so we both looked at it like, dude, we should do this more often. And then so he ends up getting booked for Vernon's.
Oh, yeah.
And we sat down. I think that first night afterwards, we sat down for like 3.5 hours. And the next night, me, him, and Jake sat down for another 3 to 4 hours. And just fucking, it was like a shit talking session,
right? But that's writing.
Yeah, exactly. We're bouncing things off, and we took his shit from like 7 to 8 minutes to like 20.
Nice.
And I haven't seen the footage yet, but he said he did really well at Vernon's. Buck texted me right after and was like, "Yo, AJ just did a tight 22. Like he did really well." I was like, "Oh shit!" And then I was like, my material got better from that, and we worked on some of Jake's stuff, and like that felt really good, and I like felt. And I said this as well on Pierce's podcast after going to Austin and hanging out with those comics. It's like I felt, at least for me, like my funny went from like if I'm here to there. Like I felt it a little bit. You know what I mean? And I think I don't know what your thoughts are on what's missing here, but I think there is a bit of that.
Yeah. Well, that's it. So I don't know where to begin. I totally support what you're saying about collaboration. I think that can only help. You know, I think...
I disagree, actually.
Well...
Because if you're collaborating with the wrong people...
Okay, fair enough.
You know what I mean?
I guess I was just assuming you're collaborating with people you think are funny.
Right, exactly.
So, don't take advice from anybody you don't think is funny.
Right. Oh, for real.
First, that's 101. You know, like... Even if it's somebody who's a much more established comedian, if you watch their sets and you don't like it, don't fucking listen. I mean, take it in, don't be an idiot, but then consider it, and if it doesn't work for you, discard it.
Right.
Like, you have to, because in the context of collaboration, comedy is still totally a self-driven vehicle. You cannot go, I mean, yeah, sure, there's like the Sklar brothers, they do 2-man comedy. It's a thing, but like you have to be your own guy or girl or whatever. And you,
who are they?
The Sklar brothers. They're like actors, comedians, podcasters. SK.
Oh yeah.
You've seen them in something.
Yeah,
they
I've
do
seen
stand up together. It's I can't say I've ever like. Well, I don't know if they have like a special or something, but I've seen clips.
I've seen pictures of
Yeah,
these
yeah.
guys. Do they
They're
do like
funny.
a bumping mics type thing?
No, they just do an act
Oh,
together.
huh.
Yeah. They kind of like finish each other's sentences and shit. Yeah. But that was very dismissive of me. They're funny. But to your point about like, it's interesting because I don't know exactly how I feel about that, but it got me thinking like about you were saying like the scene here is just like we're not getting where we need to be, or like why aren't we creating monsters? I don't know that I don't disagree with what you're saying, with where you're coming from, but I kind of maybe disagree with the premise of that's even achievable in the sense of, I mean, if the question is like why isn't Albuquerque comedy better? I would say probably because 90% of the comedians in the scene here are brand new. Ultimately, like, you know, even I'm 6 years in, I'm a fucking baby, you know, like that's nothing. There are people who say like you're not going to be good until you're 10 years in, and maybe that's true. I haven't gotten there, but like I think I'm better. I'm certainly better. I don't think I'm where I want to be, but I'm working on it, right? And I think that's mostly it. And of course, there are people who have been doing it for 20 years, and they are who they are. But I would say, and I don't think it's offensive to say, like maybe those people's goals weren't to be a monster or grow outside of Albuquerque. Maybe it was just this is the ceiling. So it's kind of a tough thing. Because, okay, you look at some place like Denver. Holy shit, are there funny comedians there? And their scene's, 10 times the size of here? It's a huge city, so it's not like they're just more comedians probably per capita, more opportunity. But who are the monsters in Denver? Sam Talent? I mean, and he even is still not a household name or anything, you know? He's been on Kill Tony, he's been on Rogan, he's got specials, he's fucking hilarious. He's probably one of the funniest comedians working today. But there's, like you said, there's no path. Like, nobody's coming to get anybody. It's not like, oh, I did a spot on Carson and now I have a sitcom. Like, that doesn't exist. I did a spot on Rogan and now I'm somebody. No, not necessarily. You know, like, you might sell tickets. You might.
Well, that's at the end of the day, that's what really matters is are you able to put asses in seats?
Yeah. And so you have to build an audience.
I think it's the mixture. And maybe this is because I'm biased. I'm wearing the fucking mothership hat, so obviously I'm biased. But like maybe it is like the the popularity of Rogan mixed with the extreme rising popularity of Kill Tony, where it's like these things can happen. Like you watch some people, like if people go on Kill Tony and crush, I've seen it on these people's pages where like they go from fucking 1,200 maybe 2,000 followers to fucking 20,000.
Yeah,
like that.
Well, like in the context of the there's no path idea, there are those new media, whatever you want to call it, like Kill Tony is huge.
It's rising right now.
Yeah.
There isn't a path, but it's like
there's no path because that's not guaranteed.
No,
I could go on Kill Tony and have a pretty good minute, but who's to say that leads to anything? You know, it's not guaranteed. And nothing's ever guaranteed, right? But there's no, like, you can't plan for that. Even I could go to Austin and sign up for the I could put my name in the fucking fishbowl every week for a year and not get on. So that's not a plan, you know? Yeah. All you can control is, are you getting funnier? And maybe that's just me using that as an excuse to try and rationalize, like, yeah, there's no path, whatever. That's the only... that's true.
What's the other option? Not be funny?
Just get funnier. That's
what if you do get paid for Kill Tony? And you go eat it.
Are you ready to crush it on Kill Tony? You know, like you have to be ready when your number's called. So if it ever is, like some podcast Louis C.K. did where he's like, the people who are popping off on social media, maybe they get a lot of followers because of TikTok or crowd work stuff or whatever. He's not shitting on it necessarily, but he's like, is that real? And he said something to the effect of like, there's only one path, and this is just coming from his perspective, so obviously he would say this, but I think there's truth to it, where he's like, the path is what I did, where I worked at it, tried to get funnier for 30 years, and that's the only way. But the irony...
That's a good
voice. The irony is that same path also leads to fucking nothing. Like, nothing is guaranteed. And so the question of, like, how does Albuquerque create monsters? I look at scenes like Denver and Chicago where I've spent a little bit of time. I'm certainly not an expert, and I don't mean to suck off those scenes too hard. They're great. We're great here. I love comedy. But like even in Chicago, like who's the, somebody gets big in Chicago, they move to New York and then they're a small fish again. Maybe they have a little bit of a following. Maybe they can get their foot in the door at the cellar or whatever it is, or sort of they're a little higher up on the ladder, but there's no household names coming out. It's like, it's just comedy scenes in cities, I think in general, are just communities, and there's room for, and this is something else, I'm not disagreeing with you, but the question of like, why aren't we better? Like, I would say, there's room for everybody in a scene like here, even, which is not, it's kind of a small scene. Like and I just said for like 20 minutes, like, people need to try harder. I'm not gatekeep. I'm not saying quit if you're not trying.
You're encouraging.
There's room for you in the scene at whatever level you're at.
Listen, if there's room for me, there is room for anybody.
That
I promise
there's
you.
A space and it's welcoming, and I love that. I love that Albuquerque, and I love, like you're talking about, Sarah and Kelly and the Dry Heat extended cinematic universe of creating more opportunities. Great. But then people have to make use of them. And that's up to those individual people to define what making use of it means for them. Like, or do you have goals? What is that goal? How are you working on that goal? And if there is more opportunity somewhere else, are you going to pursue that? Are you going to try to travel? Are you going to try and make connections with people? Whatever it is. So to the idea of like, collaboration certainly helps. But I think at the end of the day, it's like each individual person has a roadmap of, this is what I want out of this. Or if they don't, they should try and think about that and figure out what that is. Like for me, I just want to get funnier because I can't control anything. I just try not to think about anything else. I'm like, if I get more followers, great. If I get this spot at this club, great. But I just want to be funnier now than I was 6 months ago.
You can control that.
Right.
You know what I mean? That is a good thing to focus on.
Process over results. Like, just focus on, like, it wasn't, the crowd didn't love me, but I felt good about my set. And not to say it's perfect, but like, maybe there was, like, the process was good. Okay, I can feel good about that. Like, I think each person just has to be conscientious about that. And then if the results come, they come. But if not, like, you still create a holistic sort of, just comedy should be fun, and like people should have those chances to have fun, but it's more fun when you're good at it, and you're and so if you want to get good at it, you got to work.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's why I'm probably not gonna shut up about this for a few weeks. Like, that's why Saturday, aside from the obvious, why Saturday felt so fucking good.
Yeah,
it was like, got off and I was like, oh, that's what that feels like.
But that's good for you for crazy. Then having that, and then you were at the mic on Monday. So, like, for me, when I was early on, if I had a good, like, Dry Heat didn't exist when I was a baby comedian. If I had a spot at Dry Heat and crushed, I probably would have come around to the mics the next week and been like, I don't want to ruin this good feeling. Like, I had a great set. I'm feeling good. I want to just be confident for a second, not go back into the fucking wood chipper and get my balls eaten up by an audience that hates me or whatever, or the worst possible thing, like, whatever. So, like, the fact that, like, that's just using you as an example. Like, you had a good set, and you said to yourself, like, yeah, no, but I'm not satisfied.
No,
I'm happy it went well, but
because I was like, I got off because what happened was during my set, I had originally planned on only doing 5. That's what I was told, like 5 minutes. I was like, okay, 6. So I tried to chop. I tried to take the best parts of because I had recorded everything from Monday, and I put that into the editor, and I literally spliced it down.
Oh, nice.
To 5 minutes. Well, I really only got it to like 5 minutes and 30 seconds.
That's a good tip.
And I was, that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I don't want to run the light. But like, I struggled with that. I was like, I don't want to run the light. I wish I had more time, but no, I should be good enough to only do 5 minutes. And I was like going back and forth with that. And I was like, you know what? I'll figure it out. Like, I'll figure it out in the moment. Let's see what fucking happens. Worst case scenario, I will find a punchline. Like maybe like a small setup or a tag that gets a couple of chuckles. I'll try to elevate that to a punchline in the moment. Yeah. Just move on, whatever.
Figure it out.
And then when I got there and they were like, no, you're doing 8 minutes. I was like, oh, okay, sounds good. I can add this bit that I took out that did well and that kind of stuff. But then when I went out there, because I had just ingrained it in my head to do 5 minutes, I only ended up hitting, like, counting for laughs that I didn't expect, and one tiny applause break that I did not expect. I only got to like 7:05, 7:10, maybe 7:15. I'd have to look back at it. And
with like the original 5. Yeah.
yeah, and I had gone to the back, and I was like, "Fuck, man!" I was trying to, like, what did I? Like, I was standing in the back, like towards like the sink, and I was like, "What the fuck did I miss? Why did I not?" And I was like, "Fuck, I missed that whole bit. I'm an idiot. How did I miss that whole like minute and a half long bit that would have taken me to 8? How the fuck did I miss that?"
Yeah.
And so that's what kind of was in my head about, no, we're not done. We're not even close
Right.
to being done. Like, no, you missed a fucking bit you plan on doing. Maybe
I'm not. Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's fun.
That's the right attitude. Is like, yeah, keep it fun, but also like, I mean, maybe I'm just like a masochist and crazy, but I'll have a good half hour even, and I'll be like, and I'll feel, you know, it was great. It was great. It was great. Thank you. It was great. But in my head, I'm like, that bit's not all the way there. Still trying to figure out that one. You know, I'm very perfectionist about it. And you made a good point about, so I've learned trying to cut shit down for social media, which I fucking hate, but you know, you gotta do the fucking stand-up clip for social media. When I'm editing out shit from the clip, trying to get it into 30 seconds or a minute or 45 seconds, because the shorter the better. That's a good tip, I think, for someone who's trying to fine-tune a joke, is film it and cut out everything unnecessary. You'd be surprised how much is unnecessary. Even bits I've done for years, the same way. And I'm like, it works. Why would I change it? I'm like, cut that whole sentence. It takes up 17 seconds of dead air, and you don't. But I've watched it 80 times because I'm editing this video and putting captions on it, and I'm like, you know what? It doesn't fucking need it. Cut it. It's crazy. It's just how simple it is when you have to cut it down to that.
And not even just the editing part of it, but just a verbiage change.
Yeah.
Or like a phrasing change or an inflection change.
Or use a facial expression instead of saying a sentence. Just raise your eyebrows. Gets the whole idea across. Skip that whole fucking line.
Yeah.
Like, use your body. Like, act it out like instead.
Yeah. Because like I unintentionally did that exact thing. I added some facial expressions that kind of just felt right on Monday. And it made the jokes, but I was like, "Oh, is that what that was missing?
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Is that what?" And
It's
then
use it all. Yeah.
like, it was that, and then a specific joke that I had. I used to say sponsored ads from the Taliban, and it would get a chuckle. It would be like, "Ha ha."
Yeah,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's funny.
Just sponsored.
But then I changed it to recruiting calls from the Taliban, and it off to the fucking races. And I was like, "Oh, that's what it needed."
Mark Twain. The difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. That's how important it is to get. And I don't agree necessarily. Like the Seinfeld of like legal pad writing out every single syllable. Like, I will do legal pad and write out jokes. But there is something to be said for like being that meticulous about your word choice.
That's
like,
what I do. That's what I've been doing. It's like before a set. Like, this is how I've always been. Like, even in school, writing things down helps me memorize it a lot better than just typing it.
For sure.
But even like when I'm typing it, same thing I would on like a notebook or a legal pad. I'll skip a line every time because it makes it more visible. Mm-hmm. You can dissect it better, look at it better. Like, do you type on a computer?
I don't think I've ever. I was just about to say, I don't think I've ever written anything funny on a computer.
Really?
I've tried every way. I mean, I've written on a fucking scratch of papyrus.
I haven't shut up about this to any comedian where this has come up. When you get a chance, look into a program called Scrivener. Have you ever used that?
I've heard of it.
That's like Microsoft Word on steroids.
Huh.
I love that fucking thing. And what's nice about it is they give you a trial. They give you a trial for it, but the trial only runs as you use it. So you get a 30-day trial, but it's like one login a day is 30 minutes. So if you don't use it for a week, it doesn't like run out. Good. So what's nice about it is like you have like the Word document, and on the left side you have basically like a organizational bracket. Where, so I have it set to where it's like shows, open mics, premises, and I added the roast because of the outposting, and now Revel. And it's a bunch of premises that I want to work on later, but I don't want to forget. I don't want to have it get lost in my notes app. So I have all my premises that haven't even been touched yet. Then you have the Word document, and then on the side you have like it's like a synopsis block, and then a notes section that looks like a notepad. So you have all these ways to organize things, and then it's like when I'm actually putting together a set. If I have like dry heat for last Saturday, I had like, okay, dry heat set outline, all my bits. And if you press set outline, and you can have it display as corkboard mode, so your Word document becomes like a corkboard, and you can move things around and change how they organize and go together. So it's fun to see all that happen in real time. Because that's what I used to do with a legal pad. I would write out all of my bits and then lay them out on the floor. And be like, okay, how does this look? Yeah. What if I switch this around? What's my transition?
That's definitely more organized, yeah.
So it's easier to have it like that. But I'll always go back, like, just so I can memorize it, I have to write down everything. Yeah. And then I go right out there and I practice to nobody. Yeah. Just to see, like, how it feels coming out of my mouth.
I would do that, too, for sure. Yeah. Up until, I would say for the first couple of years, I would always run my set. And then I realized it was hurting me more than it was helping me because I was too robotic.
That is the same feedback. Episode hasn't come out yet, but that's the same feedback I got from Kurt Fletcher.
Yeah, and Kurt's Kurt's such a fucking funny guy, but like he's loose. Like he seems robotic because he does one-liners, but he's loose. He's loose as hell. He will go in any direction the crowd's giving him, and he is right there, present in the moment. And I felt like for me, the more prepared I was, the more rigid my brain was, and I was just too line. I was dictating. I was reading my set instead of performing it. And that's not to say, excuse me. And like, so you're describing this app to me. That sounds fucking insane to me. I couldn't. I'm glad it works for you, and I'm sure it works for millions of people. And if you're watching this or listening to this, and it sounds like you should fucking try it, even though no free ads unless they want to sponsor the pod. But for me, that sounds fucking crazy. However it works for whoever you are, you should just find what works for you, obviously. But like for me, I can't be that organized. I do write jokes out, but like I said, I've never written anything funny on a computer, I don't think. Because something about when I'm typing, my brain shuts off. The creative part of my brain shuts off. The part that's going to go off into a weird tangent or figure out what's funny about this. Like I'm just too...
I wonder if that's from like when you were working at the newspaper.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of writing on computers, but none of it was comedy, you know? So like for me... This is like work. This doesn't feel fun.
Right, yeah.
And so if I'm trying to write something, I just think of it as like the creative part of my brain comes out when I have a pen. Or even sometimes on my phone for like a premise or just like a tag. But if I'm trying to break the back of whatever fucking bit that's just giving me hell, I can't quite get it, I have to write it out. And if I've tried it, I still will try it. I'll probably try it tomorrow if a bit's giving me... Be like, let's write it out. Let's just be able to look at everything nice and clear, big paragraphs, put it in big fonts on the computer. Like, let me just look at it, because then I can read it. My handwriting's messy. I can't always read it. You know, I want to be able to look at it. But nothing funny comes out of that for me. I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, this fucking doesn't sound funny at all. If you've ever like read like a transcript of a set, it's fucking psychotic.
Oh, yeah, for
sure. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what it looks like to me on the computer, because I'm like, this... I know I wrote out a joke that gets a laugh, and I'm looking at it on the computer with the cursor blinking at me, and I'm like, you should be in an institution. This is not funny at all. You're
typing a manifesto
it's
more than a
crazy
comedy
that you think
set.
This is funny, yeah. It's not even a manifesto because it's not even interesting. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, your dick? Shut up about your dick. Quit typing about your dick in Times New Roman. It's disgraceful. But somehow... longhand. I'm like, oh yes, this is poetry all of a sudden. Yes, my dick has all these beautiful attributes I want to get into.
Your dick doesn't deserve to be that formal.
Exactly. Comedy doesn't. For me, I'm like, I can't stay loose the way you want to stay loose on a computer. You want to be like, go into it. Like Bill Burr talks about how, I remember the first time I read this or saw him say it, I thought he was fucking crazy because I was like new to comedy. He was like, before I go on stage, I empty my head. He's like, I want to be in a total neutral space when I take the mic out of the stand. I want to be nothing. I want to be like zen, fucking nowhere. Because then I can go wherever I need to go, whatever the room needs, wherever the energy is, I will get there. And for me, when I first saw that, I was like, that's fucking crazy. You're not thinking about your jokes? Like, how are you going to tell your jokes? You don't know what jokes you're going to do? You're fucking crazy. And then, like, maybe within the last year, that clicked for me, where I was like, that's correct. At least that works for me, where I want to go up with sort of nothing. Like, I have an outline in the back of my head, but I have my jokes, like, holstered. They're here, but they're not out yet. I'm like, I want to go as long as I can before I get into the jokes with just riffing or just talking, just being there. I'm in the room with you.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Well, that's when you change it. It's no longer transactional. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
That's exactly what, and that's smart. That's a mark of somebody who's doing it for a long time and skilled at it.
Tom Segura talks about riff energy, where it's like, if you just start, and I agree with this, if you start the show with just a little riff energy, even if it's just like the lights in here are weird, make a joke about something like that, something small, you have proven to everyone in the room, you've broken that whatever invisible wall there is.
Are you funny?
Well, it's that. It proves you're funny, and you're off the cuff, of course. But you're also like, I'm in the room with you. This is not a soap opera that you don't have to touch it. I'm here.
I'm real.
I'm in the room with you. We're all having this experience together. It brings people towards you, and it's almost like a fucking accelerant, like in the Fast and the Furious when they hit the nitrous or whatever. It's like your jokes fly after a little riff energy, because you're just like, yeah, I just showed you I'm funny. I'm here. I showed you I could just something might come out off the top of my head to be fun. Stay on the edge of your seat. You never know where it's going.
Well, that's why somebody like Cam Patterson's so fucking funny.
Yeah,
it's because he just you know who that is, Cam Patterson.
No, so I was gonna act like I did.
Yeah, he's one of the new regulars off Kill Tony.
Okay,
because he like gets into his jokes obviously in the minute, but like the first 5 to 10 seconds, just him being himself,
just talking shit.
Just him being himself. Like,
yeah.
And honestly, it was good you brought up Bill Burr. That he is one of the comedians that I've always been like very loud, and that's something I've had to work on because I didn't plan on doing stand up, but just being a palatable individual. I don't want to be fucking yelling all the time. Just I have a naturally loud voice, but once I get my presence on stage, my personality on stage, my likability on stage, down to not a science, but like down to a
routine, like how it feels.
Like I know how that feels. I know what it feels like to be in the pocket. I know what it's like when I'm likable and that type of stuff. I want to be able to use like the loudness of my voice like he does, because it's so fucking good. It's so good.
I gave myself a rule, and it was a while ago. I've broken it a million times, but I was like, I want to, in every set I do, whisper once and yell once. I was like, you have to figure that out. Because I was like, I was listening back to shit, and I was like, I'm too monotone, and
because it needs to be like a.
I just wanted to have some vocal dynamism. You watch Stephen A. Smith do a fucking segment on SportsCenter or whatever, and you're like, this guy's fucking all over the place. The reason he's so entertaining is because he's screaming 1 second and he brings it back down, and you're like, God damn, this is exciting to watch. And he's talking about fucking I don't even know what, but. You want to have, and I mean, you were at the gym. Thought it was amazing. Jim Jeffries held the microphone like at his belly button.
I never understood that. It's so good how he does it. He holds it like right here.
He's barely holding it. It's like loose, and he holds it. I thought I'd seen every way you could hold the mic or the mic stand, and he's totally just project. And I liked it because it gave the feeling of he's like a town crier in the square or something, and it kind of fit his material because he just gets out and he's like, "All right. Fucking women, eh? What the hell's going on with them, eh?" And you're just like, yeah. And if he was just like, fucking women, eh? It'd be different.
Be rowdy.
Yeah, but he's just sort of just like, all right. He's just like the drunk guy in the corner of the bar, and you're like, that sets the tone for what you're gonna get from him, and you're already kind of laughing because you're like, okay, I like it. But I thought he was gonna bring it up. I thought it was maybe just like his first bit. He's just a little shouty, but no, he just kept it down here, and I was just like, I love that. I want to do that.
Well, and being able to control your voice like that, it's a very subtle way of maintaining attention. Because you're not, again, if you just hit the audience with monotone, it kind of drowns them out. We brought it up earlier, our attention spans are already fucked.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, this guy's just okay. Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay. But then if you're it just keeps the attention like
I don't know if you've seen. But I've been trying this new opener where I sing. I'm doing church songs. I'm doing like Catholic hymns.
I have
like
not
my
seen
opener.
you do that.
It's been working, but I honestly just had in my notebook like Catholic hymns. So I just wrote it because I have them all in my head. I sing them in the shower. I can't get them out. They're just there forever. That's just how my life is gonna go. But they're funny, and when I do it around the house or when I was in the office back at my old jobs, like I would sometimes just be singing church songs, and it was always funny. And I was like, I know it's because I can sing it like operatic, I like really put your fucking soul into it. And I just wanted to do it on stage, so I was like, I'm just gonna start doing it. I don't necessarily have a joke around it yet, but I figured it out. But like at the start, I was just like, that was the initial thought, was like, I just want to sing as an opener because it will grab attention, and if it's funny, even better. But it's also just like, that was weird. All right, where's this going? It's sort of like, it's an unpredictability factor where it's like, I'm on the. I thought I knew where this joke was going, but remember when he started singing out of nowhere? That was fucking crazy. And then I call back. I just start singing in the middle of another joke later. Just like, you never know.
That's funny.
But yeah.
Well, listen, man, you are one of my favorite people to talk comedy with, and again,
Yeah,
you are really one of the. Like, you're one of my favorites in this city, dude. It's
Thank you.
cool to watch your fucking material hit stage and like look, like you were talking a little bit earlier, seeing that through a comedian's eyes, like, oh, he's going here. It's like for instance, I don't want to give away your joke, but I knew.
Go ahead.
I knew that you were going towards the Holocaust analogy, but because I'm a history dork.
Yeah.
Like, I knew the minute you said your family's slogan, I was like, if he doesn't make a joke about that, that is a missed opportunity.
Oh shit! So you knew? Okay,
Yes.
so I didn't even consider that someone could be anticipating that. So that doesn't necessarily change it, but that's good. That's good feedback, because I feel like the times I haven't done that joke a ton, but I feel like every time I've done it, I tell people the.
But I'm also a history dork. Like
Sure.
I want to put that out. Like, I also like.
You're not the average. Yeah, as far as like you're gonna know something they're not gonna know, but that's interesting, because I most times I've done that joke, people just get sad, and so
I thought it was fucking great.
maybe, but that tells me maybe I can add something where it's like, and if you know your history, you know where this is going.
Yeah.
But
It's good.
but yeah, it was good shit, man.
Where can people find you on Instagram? Any shows coming up soon? Let's say like 2 weeks from now. Shows
2
coming
weeks
up.
from now, shit. So we've mentioned the Safe House show on the 15th. And 2 weeks from now, honestly, that might be it that I have right now. I got shows coming up. Hope you were at them 2 weeks ago. Yeah, people.
Are you not doing the roast?
I'm out of town. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know, man. I might retire from the roast. I can't be the roast comic. I've proven everything I need
You
to
should
prove.
be a
out
fucking
there.
judge.
I would do that.
You should be a judge.
I'd like being a
Evan,
judge.
buddy, Evan. He should be a judge.
He's not watching.
He watches every now and again. He'll text me. He'll tell
good.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, I would totally judge. I just I've roasted everyone I feel like I want to roast in town, at least. I do like the exercise of doing it. But like, to your point about collaboration, like I've done like roast writing with other people. I've thrown jokes to people. It's fun. And so yeah, roast is coming up. I won't be there, but yeah, people can find me on social media, just my first and last name, and then that's about it.
Cool.
Yeah,
Listen, man, I want to do this again. It was a lot of fun.
for sure.
You're dope. Thank you for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.